education, farming, everything, mostly in a rural setting. I don't think there is anybody here who comes from Kule Mashinani who cannot remember a radio station near them. The beauty of our program or the policy is that we welcome everybody. Community media or community radios are interactive. You know, in nature, radio stations were one-sided, from the producer to the listener. But these days, call-ins are on daily basis. They call in, they give their views, and even when programs are prepared, they are participants. Association of Kenya Community Media, which I represent, has a membership of close to 63 radio stations. And as Mr. Bwire has said, they are covering almost every county. There's no county without a community radio station. Every industry has progressive reports to make, and of course challenges. The progressive report we make is that most of you are journalists from the, commercial or recognized media. You are taken because you did well and, that's why you are employed. The people you left behind are the ones we employ. They are journalists, but they could not be employed in commercial stations. They are young people with qualifications, but we employ them. Very many. Every radio station has close to about 5. You can imagine if there are over 100, how many journalists are there? And they are comfortable to operate from that setup. As Bwire has said, the first radio station, community radio station in the world, not in Africa or anywhere, was started here in Kenya. Where? Siaya, in 1982. Can you imagine? That community decided to talk to themselves. They decided to do their own things. And it went on very well until 1984. When, because of siasa, it was closed. But it was encouraged by UNESCO. You know, UNESCO, their main branch of empowerment is radio station. But they did not tire. In the meantime, the progress in the laws of Kenya, in 2009, they welcomed or they opened the industry. You remember those days, we had only one station called KBC. Today, as he says, we have very many. In 2013, it was advanced, and radio stations could have a one-stop shop to register, be whatever, get a frequency at CA, Communication Commission of Kenya. I was working there. Actually, I was dealing with issuing licenses. So it became vibrant, and we opened one. I opened one in a place called Kinamba, Laikipia. It was the only radio station that was operating. And the purpose for us, the main purpose for us to open a radio station there was because of conflict for resources in that area. When you reached Kinamba, they told you you are not in Kenya. It's a few kilometers north of equator. When you reached there, because there was no Lami, there was nothing, they told you now, welcome to the other country. But that place has developed. Courtesy of our interventions, we called wazees, we called every stakeholder to share ideas and promote peace among communities which live there. I think you have not had much conflict in those areas. They used to be frequent. It was a kind of, it was common, very common. So what we are saying is that the advantages that the community media has brought to the community to the people is enormous. That is peace, education, farming, and many others. The beauty of community media, or the beauty of community radio, is that we encourage people to communicate in their mother tongue. My friend there, Victor Juma, communicates in Kimasai from Kajiado, and he's able to reach these people. Whatever their problems, FGM issues or concerning drought today, they are well covered. So you can imagine the area that the community radio covers. Of course, the challenges are there. I don't think there is any deliberate policy to support community radios. They just survive. They just survive on their own. The license they have been given has a clause that prohibits them to make commercial adverts, which is a bit unfair because they are competing for the same audience with the commercial radios who have no restriction on how they can do their commercials. But community media, we have been told in very clear terms, don't advertise. Then how do you survive? Those are the areas that we would want the government to be more positive and assist. I don't want to take much longer, but I would appreciate that in the next 1 year, we shall be having a huge activity in the country, campaign for political positions. And you know what community media contributes. It could be positive, it could be negative. You are witnesses of what happened in 2007, 2008, when the community media was misused. And when we came to being in 2018, that was our goal. We stopped this nonsense of community radios being misused by politicians to incite people. Anybody reported of incitement, the report comes to an office, and we coordinate with the relevant bodies to ensure that you stop that nonsense. There are people who have tried it, but they have not gone nowhere. So you can see you have a platform where you can say these people are doing ABCD in terms of inciting people. So for us, we are assured, if we cover the 47 counties, we are sure there will be peaceful campaign and peaceful elections. We are already making arrangement with IEBC. My colleague there, Nyangweso, is already communicating with the people of IEBC to see how we can work together as community media that can reach everywhere to ensure there is peace, and also to encourage voter registration. You reckon that everybody is reporting that their voter registration today is very low, especially among you people, the young people. I can see most of you are young people. Just register so that you can make a difference in our political landscape. So that is where we are. What we would ask the people, or rather the policymakers, is to introduce an affirmative action for community media, like they have done in South Africa. They have opened an authority that deals with the community media only. Because when they became independent, this area was suppressed, including Africa. So they opened an authority that deals with community media and people who have no power. Community radios are sustained by the community themselves. But when the community have a choice to make between their stomachs and the radio stations, they choose the earlier. I mean, you cannot support when you cannot have anything. So that is the issue. So we are together, and we appreciate that you have recognized radio station or radio day as an important day for Kenya. Thank you.
Karibuni sana. Colleagues, led by the Secretary for Information and Broadcasting, Bwana Temesi, who is also a board member of the Media Council of Kenya. The Chairman, Bwana Maina Mweruri, karibu sana. CEO Bwana Moyo, karibu. SG mwenyewe hapa, Eric Oduor, karibu sana. Yuko hapa Presida mwenyewe hapa, Kenya Editors Guild, karibu sana Zubeida. Daktari, karibu sana, board member Media Council. Christine, Deputy Executive Director wa Katiba Institute, karibuni sana. Tabitha, Madam Tabitha Mutemi, board member Media Council, veteran journalist and broadcaster, karibu sana. Paul Nabiswa, former mkuu wa kitengo, pia karibu. Bwana Nzao Msao, commissioner, karibu sana. Mwandishi wa gazeti, lakini tumesema radio tutakuwa accommodate. Commissioner Nasser, karibu sana. Marita, karibu. Former radio journalist, now donor. You said ilienda na pesa yote. Karibu sana. Dina Ndari, karibu sana. Manager na mwenye anasimamia hii event kutoka Baraza la Vyombo vya Habari. Bwana Ituru, I hope you have given them the history of radio in Kenya. We appreciate. I hope there's a recording. I hope there's a recording kwa sababu mtu kama Kevin ajui radio ilianza lini, so we need to have that history. So karibuni sana. Stella na Salim, mshamaliza wageni huko waiting room. Karibuni sana, hao ndio wamesimamia itifaki. Sio? Katika event ya leo. So obviously having started late, which is not to be a practice in journalism, because we have people who remind time about bulletins and time. But Kenya being what it is and the rehearsal around Valentine, we will let it pass for today only. Christian Nguku, OGW, has been seen. Karibu, you have been honored to lead us, to take us in the presence of God. Kama huko kwa program, tafadhali wajiangalia unakuwa tayari. Speech weka dakika 2. Hii ni radio day na TV, weka sound bite. Watu wanataka kitu wataenda kupeperusha, si story ndefu. So karibu sana Christine.
Thank you. Good morning. I will request that we stand. Let us pray. Our Father in heaven, we come to you with thanksgiving in our hearts for a beautiful day that you have given us. Our God, we thank you for the gift of life and good health. Our God, we want to invite your Spirit to be present with us today as we deliberate on matters radio, as we also deliberate on things that we aspire to do in the future. Our God, we want to ask that you bless our fellowship together and bless our day. In Jesus' name we trust and pray. Amen. And happy World Radio Day.
Thank you, Christian. A copy of the program that I can present. Vile tuko wengi, Dina many advice that we cannot do self-introductions. We'll finish 1 hour self-introducing. Kwa sababu kuna watu wakianza kujiintroduce wanaanza mpaka mahali nasari walisoma mpaka sijui nini, itachukua muda mrefu. so tutakatakata. Second, I had been told to do a climate setting, which has been professionally done by ITCO. So kitu kizuri aturudi. So hiyo tumemaliza. But obviously, like we mentioned, today we are marking the World Radio Day. The theme is on artificial intelligence and radio journalism or radio practice, which a lot of people, the CEO had a number of articles today in the newspapers, if you can read, all the 4 actually. A number of you have been in the various radio stations talking about why AI and radio, the opportunities and the challenges. So we don't need to repeat that. Having appreciated that AI has a role in journalism generally and radio in particular,
also growing up in the village, the cost of buying those batteries was very high, and you could choose whether you want to buy batteries or get unga, and obviously unga will recede, and what you do, you go and put them somewhere under the sun. I don't know that the science behind that, so that they're able to get some power, so that from there you're able to listen to news. And during those days, you say it was KBC, Mama and Baba. I don't know if you can remember. Those are the days when radio actually was radio. I believe that maybe one day we can go back there, so that we can get those voices again. But sometimes it pains me that we do not celebrate those great men and women who made radio what it is. And we've come a long way. And right now we're talking about technology, looking at the theme of this year's World Radio Day is about AI. And I believe that AI is here to enhance efficiency, speed, in our work, but I still believe that AI should be used in terms of the opportunities that it comes with, but not there to replace human intervention. Humans will always be there, but AI can make our work easier and better, and we know that there are some very good examples where in the media industry, AI has been used to make work easier. I don't know, many of us who will remember the stories, investigative pieces about Panama Papers, because the research to do the stories about Panama Papers, the research was used, they used AI just to sieve information from different papers, because we had huge documents that they had to sift through to get the stories. But with the help of the AI, they were able to do it faster and get the stories out of AI. So I believe that radio is still a very popular and an important tool of mobilization than any other medium of communication in the world today. So if we embrace AI, emerging technologies, we are going to mine more opportunities from radio. Before I end there, however, radio actually harbors the highest violation of labor rights of journalists and media workers in Kenya. If you go around the country, because I've been going around the country, 2 days ago I was in Thika, and you will find that radio stations, the managers there, they'll give a journalist or a media worker a recorder, and they'll tell you that make use of that recorder very well. Umenisikia? And that is what is bringing the cases of unprofessional conduct among journalists and media workers. Because it's only in radio stations where you get journalists working without contracts. It is only in radio stations where you get journalists working for months and months without pay. It is only in radio stations where journalists report there in the morning from Monday to Sunday. No off days, no leave. Bwana CEO and the rest who are here, I believe we can do better. We can celebrate the expansion and the growth of radio, but again we must condemn violation of labor rights of journalists and media workers who are working in these radio stations. I believe if we do that, we will improve. Otherwise, in another decade, we will be celebrating or complaining. So we'll rather choose to celebrate than complain. Because if we do not protect professionals to work in these radio stations, sometimes in the coming months, we'll be regretting and not celebrating, because people have got bills to pay. Should I rather go and work in a radio station and stay for 6 months, 1 year without pay, or I get something else to do? Your guess is as good as mine. Lastly, ladies and gentlemen, we need platforms for us to have these conversations. And together with the Media Council of Kenya, Kenya Editors Guild, Association of Media Women in Kenya, and other interested parties, we are convening the biggest Pan-African Media Summit in Kenya in May. I want to invite you, partners, journalists, to come together so that we can create a platform for us to discuss this. I've seen we have got academia in the room. Dr. Wheeler, we want you guys to come there with papers. Dr. Radoli, we want you guys to come there with papers on various factors and challenges that the media is facing in Kenya, so that we can have that continental discussions and have these discussions also that can help our colleagues in other countries. Viva Africa! Viva Africa! Are we ready to invite the whole Africa to Kenya so that we can have this conversation? Viva Africa! Viva Africa! Asanteni sana.
In trade unionism, they are called comrades, see? Comrade power. So, asante sana Bwana SG. Quickly, Fatma from Internews. Fatma, before joining Internews, worked in radio for quite years, and when we saw you, we couldn't miss your voice. So, karibu sana Fatma.
Asante sana Victor. Good morning, everyone. Good morning once again. Mimi ni mfupi. Let me try this. Can I use both or one? So it's heavy. So good morning once again. My name is Fatma Sanbur. I'm the Regional Program Manager for Internews, supporting our programming in Africa. I'm privileged to be standing in front of you today. Apologies for being late. And I'm really happy this day because it's World Radio Day. Who won't be happy? I've been asked to give a few remarks about this day. But I didn't have a prepared speech, so I'm just going to give a quick background about what we do at Internews, but I'm also going to give a brief background of why this day is also important to me as a person. Internews is a media development organization, and we do support media in terms of business. We do also advocate for media freedom, freedom of expression, among other things. We work in over 20 countries globally, and we've been in existence for over 40 years. In Kenya, we've worked since 2003, and a number of you have been either involved in our trainings, worked with us, trained with us in one way or the other. So I'm sure Internews is not a new organization to most of you. World Radio Day is really an important day for all of us, and I would like to take this time to wish everyone a happy World Radio Day. Internews has been a key advocate for, empowering community radio stations globally. And in Africa, it's defined our work in most of the complex countries we've worked in, like Ethiopia, Zambia, Central African Republic. We've worked with a number of partners, and our key partners have always been radio. For example, in Zambia 5 years ago, when we were going in, the first entry point was for us to identify 19 community radio stations that we worked with for a span of 4 years before the fundings were cut last year. And in that particular programming, we were not only going to train journalists on how to produce content, but we were also looking at how to build the hardware and software for community radio stations. The reason why you focus on community radio stations is that most of the time they are always forgotten when it comes to development. We do go in, we support associations, we support, CSOs, but community radio stations usually come as a second thought. But at Internews, we do go in to support community radio stations first, because we know they play a key role in our communities, which is the most important bit of it. For me, radio has defined my career, and as most of you know here, we've we've had side chats about why radio has defined most of our, journalism careers. I started as a friend of mine there was reminding me when I was a tiny girl, doing press conferences, volunteering at a community radio station in Kibra, and becoming an editor, and now becoming one of the senior people at Internews in Africa. I'm really privileged to have been brought up in a radio space. My role models back then were Kina Mariam Omar at BBC Swahili. Diraya BBC was my most go-to program to listen to, and I would always imitate how Mariam used to present the news. And I'm happy to see Nasra, because we were the first people to develop a community radio station in Dadaab. And the community radio station in Dadaab, actually when we were starting back then, we used to rely on Star FM, which was the only Somali radio station to broadcast content to the refugees in Dadaab. And how we used to do it, I used to live in a UN camp. So we would train a number of refugee journalists, and they will produce content. Then we will edit the content, put it in a USB hard drive, and then go to the mast where Nasra's Star FM had a mast, and we will switch off the national frequency and put in the CD drive, and that will produce content to Dadaab. So now I'm happy whenever I'm on Facebook and see Gargar FM, that is the name of the radio station, now broadcasting on Facebook, being able to have their own content, producing a number of content, having sponsors like the UN, the UNHCR, and so on. So I'm super happy whenever we celebrate World Radio Day, not only for myself, but for people that we've interacted with, we've benefited in one way or the other, and Viva Radio, and I know we will continue doing that. The theme for today is World Radio, or Radio and Artificial Intelligence. I had Bwana CEO and the head of broadcast at NMG talk today at Fixing the Nation. It's one of my favorite morning shows. And I could hear the voice that even though AI is there, but the identity of radio won't be lost. We might package, repackage how we distribute content, but we will never lose radio. So on this day, thank you so much for giving me the platform to speak, and happy World Radio Day to all of you on behalf of myself and on behalf of Internews. Thank you.
Asante sana. I'm sure Bwana CEO, when you come later, you must, I request you also talk about your days in radio. CEO helped start up more than 23 radio stations, actually. Back then, I'm sure he'll mention it. I want to invite the president of the Kenya Editors Guild, Madam Zubeida. Tayari ako kesho, so mumuelewe. Mumuelewe, tayari ako kesho. Karibu sana.
Oh my goodness, Asante Victor, thank you very much. Happy Valentine's Day to all of us. First of all, ladies and gentlemen, help me celebrate SG on his re-election as the Secretary General of KUJ. Pongezi sana, ama tumwambie viva na. Asante sana. You know, I also used to, other than being an anchor, I used to read news on Radio Maisha. Sijui kama kuna wengine wenu mulifuatilia. So I understand why we need to celebrate this day. And it reminds me of our tour to China the last 2 years, where we visited one area, mahali tulipata wako na AI-powered radio. And with this background, ilinipea wasiwasi kidogo, because it's a station, an AI-powered station that had more than 1,000 frequencies, where you don't need like a whole team to operate. You just press a button and you're live on air. So nilikuwa najiuliza, where are we headed to? Should we be worried? You know? So Temesi Mukani, Information Secretary, Ministry of ICT, Maina Mwiruri, Chairman MCK, David Omoyo, CEO MCK, Dr. James Gishihi Njogu, Acting Secretary General NATCOM, Nora Mbagathi, ED Katiba Institute, yes, yeah. My sister Tabitha, media industry leaders, colleagues in the media, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, happy World Radio Day. Yes, and I'm happy to see the energy in the room. You all look amazing. You know, I wish you could stand here and look at the room and see how amazing you look. As we mark World Radio Day 2026, we gather at a defining moment for broadcasting in Kenya. This year's theme, Radio and Artificial Intelligence, is not abstract, it's immediate. It's already reshaping our newsrooms, our studios, and our professional conversations. For decades, radio has been Kenya's most accessible and most trusted medium. It reaches where fiber optic cables do not. It speaks where literacy is not guaranteed. It informs where internet connectivity is unreliable. From Turkana to Kisumu, from Kilifi to Nairobi, radio remains the heartbeat of Kenyan public discourse. It informs, it educates, it mobilizes, and in times of crisis, it stabilizes. Its strength has always been its simplicity. Umesikia hata SG amesema about hizo batteries ulikuwa unaweka kwa jua zina una charge na jua. No expensive devices, no data bundles, just a battery, powered set, and a human voice. That trust is its currency. Today, that trusted heartbeat is intersecting with artificial intelligence. Across Kenya, media houses are already using AI tools to transcribe interviews, summarize reports, translate bulletins, and digitize archives. In a country with more than 60 languages, the possibilities are significant. AI could help expand multilingual broadcasting improve efficiency, and preserve our rich audio history, and SG has spoken to this. During a recent visit to China, I walked through a museum that traced the evolution of photography and videography, from early cameras to today's AI-powered storytelling tools. What struck me was not the sophistication of the technology, but its purpose. AI was being used to restore historical footage, preserve cultural memory, and make heritage accessible to younger generations. And I hope and pray that we'll get there someday. In that moment, I was reminded, technology is not inherently disruptive. It can also be preservative. The question is not whether AI will enter our media spaces. It already has. The question is whether we will use it to dilute our humanity or deepen it. Because alongside promise comes responsibility. Public trust is radio's greatest asset. During elections and national emergencies, Kenyans turn to radio not only for information, but for reassurance. Synthetic audio and voice cloning technologies are advancing rapidly. If a listener begins to question whether the voice they hear is authentic or artificially generated, credibility can erode very quickly. So radio's enduring power lies in the human voice, in tone, humor, empathy, and lived experience. Algorithms can replicate sound, but they cannot replicate accountability. They cannot replicate editorial judgment. They cannot replicate human responsibility. We must therefore be clear. AI must assist journalists, not replace them. It must enhance editorial capacity, not erode it. At the same time, we must address the real concerns within the industry. Kenya's radio sector supports thousands of professionals. Community radio stations in particular operate on modest budgets while serving underserved populations. If AI adoption is uneven or unregulated, we risk widening gaps rather than closing them. That is why this conversation must move beyond technology and into policy. Kenya needs a deliberate and balanced AI and media framework. We need clear disclosure standards where content is AI generated. We need regulatory clarity between oversight institutions. We need newsroom advisory structures to guide ethical integration. The objective is not to resist innovation. It is to shape it in the public interest. Radio is not dying, it's evolving. The danger is not artificial intelligence itself. The danger is unregulated artificial intelligence. If guided wisely, AI can strengthen multilingual broadcasting, improve efficiency, and expand inclusion while preserving the human core of journalism. AI is a tool, not a voice. Technology must remain a tool. The voice must remain human. As radio becomes more intelligent, our responsibility is to ensure it does not lose its humanity. Thank you very much for your attention and enjoy the day.
And thanks, President. President French, yeah, so don't think that I'm mistaking the name. Now we move to Winket. Our partner from Kenya National Commission on UNESCO, he has been sent by Dr. Njogu to represent because of something that came up in the office. So Winket works at the Kenya National Commission on UNESCO, NATCOM, who are part of the sponsors of this event. Karibu sana.
Asante sana. They should make this for short people. Niko sawa, thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Happy World Radio Day. As the chair Akmo was talking about community radio, all I could think about is how while growing up, every morning my grandmother would wake up to make tea, and the first thing she would listen to was community radio, which is Kameme FM. I know most of you might be familiar with Kameme, and it just made me realize how important radio was then and how it still is today. So my name is Mukami Winkate. I'm representing the Acting Secretary General of the Kenya National Commission for UNESCO. Allow me to ride on the protocols already observed. Ladies and gentlemen, radio remains the most accessible, affordable, and far-reaching medium of communication in Kenya. It reaches communities across the country, connecting people, promoting dialogue, advancing democratic values, and amplifying voices that are often unheard. For millions of Kenyans, radio continues to be the most trusted source of information and a vital platform for civic participation. Radio empowers citizens through timely and reliable information, supports advocacy on social development issues, and plays a central role in political socialization by enabling informed civic participation. Through the call-in programs and interactive platforms, radio fosters dialogue, accountability, and inclusion, allowing citizens to question, contribute, and actively engage in national discourse. Ladies and gentlemen, this year's World Radio Day challenges us not only to celebrate radio, but to reflect critically on how innovation will shape trust, democracy, and social cohesion in the years ahead. The theme, Radio and AI, speaks directly to the era we are in. AI is increasingly shaping how radio content is produced, distributed, and consumed. AI offers opportunities to enhance efficiency, expand reach, and improve audience engagement. Used responsibly, these tools can strengthen radio's ability to serve the public interest. At the same time, the use of AI in broadcasting presents serious ethical, legal, and social considerations. These include concerns around data protection and privacy, information disorder, and unequal access to digital tools. If not carefully governed, these risks can erode public trust and undermine the credibility of radio as a public interest medium. Ladies and gentlemen, these concerns are particularly urgent in Kenya as we prepare for the general elections in 2027. We all know that election periods are often marked by heightened political competition, polarization, and the rapid circulation of false or misleading information. In this context, radio plays a critical role in promoting peaceful coexistence, providing accurate and verified information, facilitating inclusive dialogue, and enabling citizens to participate meaningfully in democratic processes. How AI is used in radio during the forthcoming elections will either strengthen public trust or irreversibly undermine it. While AI can support broadcasters through content verification, real-time monitoring, and translation of election information into local languages, it can also be misused to amplify disinformation and generate deceptive content. This reality demands strong editorial oversight and a clear commitment to human judgment and accountability. Ladies and gentlemen, UNESCO's normative frameworks, including the recommendation on the ethics of AI, emphasize that technological innovation must respect human rights, promote transparency, and remain accountable to the public. In the media sector, this means ensuring that AI systems do not replace editorial responsibility, undermine professional standards, or marginalize vulnerable communities. Instead, AI should be used as a tool that supports journalists, strengthens information integrity, and reinforces public trust, particularly during sensitive periods such as elections. Kenya's AI Readiness Assessment Methodology Report further underscores these concerns. The assessment, which was undertaken in 2024, highlights the ethical risks associated with AI-generated content, including misinformation, algorithmic bias, and the potential erosion of public trust if safeguards are not in place. As we commemorate World Radio Day, the findings of the Readiness Assessment Methodology Report serves as a timely call to action. AI is a tool, it's not a voice, and it is not a substitute for editorial judgment. Every AI-generated script, summary, or translation must remain subject to human verification. Human oversight is not optional, it is essential to protecting truth, accuracy, and the public trust, especially during sensitive periods such as elections. Ladies and gentlemen, community radio is especially important in this regard. Its participatory and people-centered nature positions it as a trusted platform at the grassroots level, fostering social cohesion, community identity, and a sense of belonging. By reflecting local realities and priorities, community radio contributes to dialogue, conflict prevention, and peace-building roles that are indispensable during election cycles. Ladies and gentlemen, as NATCOM, we will continue to collaborate with partners to strengthen radio and uphold ethical media practices in Kenya. This includes building capacity of journalists and broadcasters, supporting multilingual and inclusive programming, and advancing initiatives that promote media and information literacy. Kevin over here from ACMO can ascertain that indeed we've been working with community radio professionals in the country and building their capacity, and we shall continue to do so and engage even other partners such as Internews and the Media Council of Kenya in doing so. At the same time, this moment calls on broadcasters, regulators, technology providers, policymakers, and development partners to work together, not in silos, to ensure that AI serves the public interest and strengthens democratic participation. As I conclude, ladies and gentlemen, let us embrace innovation responsibly. Let AI empower broadcasters, support credible and ethical journalism, and enhance audience engagement. Above all, let it strengthen the trust that has sustained radio as a cornerstone of public communication. Thank you all, and I wish you a happy World Radio Day, and of course, a happy Valentine's tomorrow.
Asante. As you are aware, those who have worked in protocol, keynote speeches are normally 3 people, but we must be accommodative sometimes. And I can see the information secretary wondering, these guys have turned this into a panel discussion. But sometimes we must be inclusive and take Madam Tabita, who has worked in government for many years as very senior management, but sometimes we accommodate a bit so that then, now that it's almost like a panel, I want to invite Christine from Katiba Institute, and Lynn, you are talking to us access to information and radio, so that then Bana Chairman, I know more, I not guide him because he knows he has even a presentation he's making on the, we are launching a document in a few minutes, in the expanded regulatory mandate for Media Council becomes very critical, because some of the discussion we are doing is regulation and the expanded nature, and regulated radio and regulated space, what happens. So karibu sana, Madam Pastor Christine Kuria.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think we need to work on, yeah, no comment. I think I'll begin by saying, as the SG was talking, I think it also took me back. I remember my grandmother also was very attached to her radio. And every time she'd say that she needs her radio because she needs to listen to, she called it mustatari. We have to listen to mustatari. Mustatari wa habari. So she always wanted to, she was attached to her radio, and it took me back quite far. Happy World Radio Day. Allow me to begin by giving our executive director's apology. Unfortunately, she couldn't make it, Madam Nora Bagathi. She was not able to join us, but Katiba Institute is well represented. Further to that, allow me to write on the existing protocol and proceed on to the speech. So as we mark the World Radio Day 2026 under the theme Radio and Artificial Intelligence, Innovation that Empowers, Ethics that Inspire, Trust that Endures, we are not only celebrating our powerful medium of communication, but we are also reaffirming our constitutional promise. In Kenya, radio remains the most accessible and trusted source of information, reaching a large percentage of the population. For many rural, marginalized, and low-income communities, radio is their primary source of information, public participation, and even civic engagement. Our Constitution recognizes the centrality of information. Article 35 guarantees every person the right to access information. This right is foundational to democracy. It enables citizens to participate meaningfully in governance, to hold institutions accountable, and to make informed decisions about their lives. As artificial intelligence increasingly shapes how content is produced, distributed, and consumed in radio broadcasting, it is important to critically evaluate the impact of AI on the constitutional right on access to information. Artificial intelligence offers enormous potential for advancing access to information. It can enable real-time translation into local languages, making content more inclusive. It can enhance accessibility for people with disabilities through speech-to-text and text-to-speech tools. It can support fact-checking and the verification process, strengthening accuracy and timeliness. If properly governed, AI can significantly advance Article 35 by expanding reach, reducing linguistic barriers, and promoting civic education. These benefits are, however, accompanied by risks. Algorithmic bias may marginalize certain communities. Deepfake audio and synthetic voices can undermine trust in broadcasting. Opaque algorithmic systems may shape editorial decisions in ways that are not transparent to audiences. Data-driven audience analytics may infringe on privacy if not properly regulated. Access to information is not merely about availability, it is about reliability, credibility, inclusivity, and accountability. If AI systems compromise these principles, they risk eroding the very trust that makes radio so powerful in Kenya. Katiba Institute's mandate is to defend the Constitution and promote constitutionalism. Our work has included strategic litigation to enforce Article 35 and the Access to Information Act, advocacy for stronger compliance by public institutions, and engagement on digital rights and data protection. We have consistently maintained that constitutional rights do not diminish in digital spaces. Technology must align with constitutional values and innovation must serve the public interest. AI governance in media cannot be treated as a purely technical matter. It is a constitutional issue that goes to the heart of democratic participation. The partnership commemorating World Radio Day reflects a necessary multi-stakeholder approach. The Media Council of Kenya, our partners, provides regulatory, you can tell where I'm from, leadership and industry oversight. Internews strengthens innovation and journalistic capacity. UNESCO offers global standards on press freedom and ethical AI governance. And Katiba Institute ensures that constitutional safeguards, access to information principles, and accountability remain at the center of the conversation. Effective AI governance in media requires collaboration among regulators, civil society, technologies, policymakers, and broadcasters. As we move towards an AI-driven future, our commitment is to encourage radio to be rights-based. Algorithmic systems should be transparent. Compliance with access to information and data protection laws must be strengthened. Editorial accountability must remain visible, and ethical use of AI must be strengthened. Artificial intelligence should enhance access to information, not obscure its sources. It should strengthen democracy, not weaken trust. The World Radio Day 2026 reminds us that radio remains one of the most powerful democratic tools in Kenya. With thoughtful governance, AI can make it even stronger. At Katiba Institute, we believe that innovation must serve the people and uphold the Constitution. Technology must protect rights, and access to information must remain at the heart of Kenya's democracy. Thank you all, and once again, happy World Radio Day. Thank you.
Asante sana, Christine. When I said pastor, it's in quotes. He used to lead our prayer when we were working together at the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights. So you pastor si ati ako na church. He's not competing for war. So I mean, with that, then I'm sure Bwana Temesi will mention something about the need to engage digital platforms, the issue of content theft and related, at what level, how do we compensate journalists with their work, the only work God has given in content creation? Because a lot of these big techs just pick content here they use it for money. So, and that level needs government intervention, discussions, dialogue with big techs, what has happened in South Africa, what has happened in Australia, Canada, to engage them to see how content can benefit journalists. At that note, I want then to invite the Chief Executive Officer, CEO of Media Council of Kenya, Bwana David Omoyo, MBS, to come and lead us in the next discussion. The events are going on in Mombasa, in Turkana, in Kisii, and Tharaka Nithi, where we have regional offices. There are other World Day events that are going on there. A number of our staff in our various radio stations engaging journalists. So, karibu sana Bwana Omoyo.
Thank you very much. I'm Jambo. The former version of me in radio was an intern, then a news reader, then a station manager, then a media owner establishing about 20 radio stations. So you would either find me in Italy kwa factory ya transmitters, ama Milimani from Mazeras in Mombasa, Nyambene Hills in Meru, wherever, supervising Chuma and all that. So in radio I've done a lot of this and that. One day, exactly 10 years ago in 2016, we were going up to Mazeras Hill to set up a radio transmitter for the Archdiocese of Mombasa, and a snake fell into our car. You know, because you're driving in the bushes going up, and then it disappeared. I was not given permission to tell you what happened next. It's a pleasure really that you join us to celebrate radio and artificial intelligence. But before that, I've told you the former version of me and the radio. The informal version of me and the radio is at home. Nakumbuka kuna stool ya radio na kitambaa ya kufunika radio namna hii. Na kitambaa ya kufunika radio namna hii. Na ukiguza radio ya mzee ulikuwa unagongwa kidogo. It is KBC Swahili kidogo. At 4:45 p.m. inawekwa Kikisii, ilikuwa Kisumu, tunasikia matangazo ya vifo na matangazo maalum in vernacular. And 6:30, if your radio had shortwave, the neighbors congregate to listen to BBC and all that, and the neighbors would come, and that is the informal version of radio. Na kutumu ukaenda ukachukue kununua batteries, either ilikuwa radio ama nyota ama kuanika kwa jua kama jua imekuja and all that. So radio has been, but even today if you reflect, you realize that radio, we use it for different versions. Here in the city we use it to know for traffic updates, especially before Google Maps came, and we use it for marriage counseling, patanisha on one of the radio stations, isn't it? And then we use it for fantasy. Maina, the official women rep of Nairobi, Maina Kageni on Classic 105 and all that. And of course we have the Sandonas and the Roga that come for wazee like Nzao, Musao and others, isn't it? But eventually, well, he may not be mzee, but his hair looks gray unless ameguzana na chokaa. But eventually you realize that radio is very critical, isn't it? And in the village they listen to still matangazo maalum, isn't it? And they listen to weather updates and all that, isn't it? Na mahubiri, especially when you want to heal a few people. Unashika radio yako, unaponywa magonjwa fulani ambayo tutataja, isn't it? So radio still remains very important and all that. The beauty, the one unique feature of radio is the ability to consume radio while going on with your life. Every other media, you need to stop and concentrate. You need to stop and scroll your phone. You need to stop and watch TV or stop and read newspaper. Radio, si hata mnaona watu ya boda wako na radio namna hiyo, na the stereo inawaka. Na what else? What channel do the people of the boda listen to? Kwa matatu za Nairobi ni Classic 105. The people listen to the official women rep. But kwa watu wa boda tunasikiza Gidi na Ghost. Na betting. So really radio is an integral part of life. But when you reflect about artificial intelligence is really advanced intelligence. really just that ability that you have used technology to make delivery easier and all that. So artificial intelligence, for example, it schedules announcements. It alerts you that we have now this, we have an advert that is due now. And of course, it shows you if you are doing your normal show here, it alerts you that now we have breaking news. Do you want to alert your listeners and all that? So that integration of AI is what we celebrate. But still, that radio remains, and I would say that radio still remains king. We will see in the report now that in Kenya we have about 250 radio stations. When we grew up, tulikuwa na kama 9 hivi. And it was very easy to listen because we had 2 radios. Kama umesoma kidogo, alikuwa nasikiza KBC General Service, US for the asking and a bit of reggae. And those days, Tabitha Mutemi was a producer on radio and doing a bit of stuff. And nowadays, there is so much. You need to find really what to listen to. If you want counseling, if you want healing, if you want love advice, if you want family reconciliation, there is always a bouquet of all that. It's beautiful that all that is available. Now it's about what technology facilitates us to do and the ethics thereof, so that you don't use now the ethics to clone people's voices without either attribution or to use it wrong, or you don't use that AI to perpetuate misinformation and disinformation. So, pamoja na kwamba, and actually you'll notice that initially when we had all universities had a newspaper, isn't it? Nowadays they have a radio station. What were Daystar? Aga Khan hamna radio, because Aga Khan, they are posh, they teach management and digital and all that. Daystar, who are trying to mold young journalists, they have a radio station and all that. So then you realize that radio is an integral part, and whatever happens, even as the new comes, the old doesn't go, the old just changes. What has changed is the mode of delivery. So kwetu sasa hakuna stool ya kuwekelea radio na kale kitambaa, but still there is a way my mom listens to radio, isn't it? Either on her phone akiwa kwa farm, or a channel on TV and all that. So as we celebrate this World Radio Day, I would like that we all celebrate the power of information and the gadgets. And you want to know that the reason why the World Radio Day was first commemorated by the UN in 1946 was the critical role radio had done during the Second World War, providing information for evacuations, weather forecasts, how to save people, where people would go for food and medication and all that. And radio still does that today. When we have cyclones or very big natural disasters in places, the first responders go in and they seek to set up a little radio station to communicate to people. So you may be posh in the city and thinking, oh, radio is not important because you have screens. But people rely on radio, and I wish that we spend the day celebrating radio and dance to music on radio. It's actually very easy to dance to music on radio. Kudance muziki ya TV si rahisi, isn't it? Well, the people who love rumba, you can dance to music on radio. You can't dance to music on TV, isn't it? For the young people, because all of us are either parents or future parents or grandparents, kuna watu si wazee, si vijana sana kama chairman, and wale wako na nywele nyeupe. Radio is good for the young people because it triggers the mind. Television, the screen zombifies the young people, but radio triggers that imagination. So radio is a good tool for bringing people up. Olo Janak, good to see you after a while. But as I start to present the report, because I need to break the monotony of speeches and present just a little research, a few slides for you to reflect about how monetization and digitization has caused confusion. Help me reflect as Madam President marks Valentine. You know, St. Valentine was a Catholic priest who used to do weddings, secret weddings during war, which had been overruled by the Roman Empire, isn't it? And a lot of commitment to people who are weak, isn't it? What I'm trying to understand is how that was converted into a day where every man akona deni, you must pay something. How the transition from that noble thing to a day where some guys, we must pick some flowers and do some chocolate and wear a certain color. Anyway, we will have that during the tea break to discuss. Yes, can I go to the presentation right away? Yeah, please tell me, musinijibu saizi, and musifikirie sana. So, we had a short report of navigating the digital reality, monetization, because we have a challenge of sustaining radio stations, isn't it? SG, I can see you are practicing to be a journalist, to be a politician by doing a lot of Viva. It is not only radio where people are not paid. Generally in the media sector, iko shida ya kulipo kidogo, isn't it? And because of, number one, of course, there are many. We had about 9 radios. We have 250, isn't it? Can the economy sustain that? But you notice that we have the collapse of the tradition. Those who don't know is that airtime in radio is measured in seconds. You will buy 15-second mentions 4 times in the morning, eventually 7 times a day. It is 1.8 million shillings per week. That's how we used to make it. It was very easy. We go on a radio, it was very easy. If you have good listenership, it's 15 seconds, 4 times for breakfast show, 7 days a week, times 3 weeks, 1.8 million, add VAT, and 1% discount. And you must pay in advance, isn't it? Then we will call it a space order. Now that tradition has collapsed, all right? People want to place these adverts on Facebook and X and YouTube, isn't it? Because people have to access it quick here. And so what has happened is that we need to innovate, because the challenge we have, it's regulatory. Bwana Temesi, please tell Waziri when you see him that, is that this person putting an advert on Facebook puts that advert after you have clicked to read an article done by a local radio or a local newspaper. Is after you read the article, then the advert is pegged on that, isn't it? But all this money goes to Washington, big tech, isn't it? Remember what brought you to the social media is an article done by a local journalist and media house. The advert has been hinged on it, and the money has gone, isn't it? Not you, the owners of the platform have done that. And so then, therefore, we have revenue, or rather the budget, the cake has not gotten smaller. Because the economy imeenda. Sasa mnaona budget ya serikali imefika trillion. Unajua tukipewa trillion tuhesabu tunaweza changanyikiwa sana. But the people are more now. Because now if you have your own TikTok account, you're given something, isn't it? I was checking my TikTok now. I go to TikTok to dance from time to time. But I make sure I do it fully dressed, so msijali hapo. So I noticed that we have big tech. I have seen an advert from KCB and Safcom coming up on the TikToks, and they're hinged on certain people, isn't it? All this was revenue that went to newspaper, radio, and TV. Now it's being distributed across, isn't it? So the cake has not gotten smaller. The mouths are many. And now that technology has allowed people to count eyeballs. You know, initially you want to print gazeti peke yako, and the advert came. Now we do that. So that innovation of how to do that is important. And therefore, we look at where is the audience. Is the mobile first? You know this thing, how many people this thing has replaced, isn't it? The camera person, the person carrying the microphone, the person doing graphics design, isn't it? And all that. And if you have a seriously advanced phone, you know, you have seen even colleagues like Larry Madowo going live on CNN with iPhone and all that, isn't it? That alone has displaced the entire camera person. What do a picture msijali mfutu kazi? But these people have been displaced, isn't it? The guys, then you do the background, the guys who do the propping and all that, because technology has done that. So if you want to do anything, deliver it here. That's why radio, your simu na ninunulie iko na radio, is a very good question asked by people at home, isn't it? Na ikuwe na tochi, na ikuwe na calculator, na camera, na hata wamesema ikuwe na Bible. So nowadays you can swear by the Bible on your phone. Then you notice that, and if you look at it's 91%, it's all of them. 9 out of 10. Anything you want to do must go on phone. Then look at that social dominance. Facebook, we have said that now any radio you want has to do is streaming, isn't it? On all social media. With a bit of music, isn't it? And news websites, which is very low. Nika 13%. But social media, that means that it's a mode of delivery. You sit in your studio, deliver any content, but find a way of putting in a place that it will eventually find its way to the channels, isn't it? And ultimately on the phone. So atununui radio. I saw Nzau akipigwa picha na ile radio. Unakumbuka radio ambao? Kuna radio ilikuwa ambao ilikuwa Philips ama Sanyo. Now it must go back to the phone. And so you realize that these are the market insights, and we either adjust to this or collapse. Ama SG atakuwa akisema viva viva. Ukienda kwa radio anakuuliza tutatoa wapi pesa? Because the money has gone, isn't it? Yes? Yes. Hata tukifunga hatuwezi funga zote. Although sometimes I think we have too many. 250 radios, they are too many, isn't it? Hata tukifunga hatuwezi funga zote, but zinakuja wakati wa campaign na wakati wa mahubiri, especially when we want to heal strategic people. You know that primary encounter, that I don't want to get to those because paywalls are still low. Because the question is, why do you want me to pay for what I can access for free? Why do you want me to pay to listen to your radio when I have everybody else giving the same content for free? And then revenue benchmarks. There isn't much benchmarking to do. You know, in the old days, you could get something experimented in Europe, then it's tried, then it's brought to Africa and all that, isn't it? Now we leapfrog. If we have a crisis of social media in Australia and the UK, it is the crisis in Kangemi at the same time. So we have no time to see what that's where the problem comes at once. So I think the easiest thing will be keep talking, but find a way. It is both regulatory to make sure that the money that is going to big tech comes back to sustain responsible journalism, and make government commit a budget to the information ecosystem. All successful media houses, Bwana Temesi, I am addressing you in specific because kuna mahali utaitwa na mimi sitaitwa. It's public funded. Go out, the BBC, Deutsche Welle. In Sweden, actually, the public broadcaster in Sweden finances other media houses. The KBC ya Sweden wako wanapata pesa wanasaidia the other radios around to run on TV. Is that true, Barry? Yes, they do that and all that. So media as a business is a very small aspect of what it is. What we need is media and information as a public good. Watu wa katiba wanaamini hivyo, isn't it? Information is a public good. So we need budget commitments from the government. So professionalism is king, but quality is queen. What to chess? Do we stick to the queen? King, queen. Ideally is that it's good quality content, isn't it? That is what. And accessibility. You know, the model of radio or the model of media is a very inverted thing. You first of all develop content and make sure you get people to consume your content, isn't it? Now when you go to the advertiser, you sell your listeners. In other places, you know, you develop a product and sell the product right away. In media, you develop a product, get people to subscribe or to be addicted to your product. Now the people who have gotten into your product are the people you convert into a product themselves and sell to the eventual advertiser. So it's a bit of slave trade. So ukiona unapenda Facebook sana, people make money from that on your behalf, isn't it? So the whole idea is that hata kama watu wasema they're likely to pay for digital content in future, people are likely to pay for that if the free version is not available, isn't it? The free version sasa zimekuja mkikaza Facebook. People eventually is that if people pay for internet and they have a distant mobile phone, they have a lot of this stuff for free. Those are the challenges. So mobile first. Anything you develop, find a way that it reaches the mobile, isn't it? Focus on niche, isn't it? Kuna watu there are certain channels, radios and TVs that have their own guys, isn't it? Those who know Shakahola know that there was a TV channel that would recruit people from Keroka and they find a way to go to Kilifi and die before heaven judge. So before heaven judge. But the pastor is getting, I don't know, some little work, isn't it? Adopt low payment. Let people pay things that look inconsequential, like a bob per day and all that. If you try to do bulky subscriptions, it doesn't work. And be resilient. The challenge we have in media is this. Because sometimes not very clean content sells, even ethical professional media is tempted to try to compete with the charlatans and comedians in town, isn't it? Because they have more eyeballs and all that. Because the more eyeballs you get, the more money you get. That is the challenge. That's what we should try to make sure that we sustain ethical media. Kabisa. Finally, I want you to reflect about how monetization in media works. I will take the case of either YouTube or Twitter or Facebook. If I want to put an advert on Facebook, you pay Facebook to put an advert there, isn't it? If you do not want to see my advert that I put on Facebook, you pay Facebook so that they don't show you my advert, isn't it? So the owners of the platform reflect about that complex nature. To put it there, someone pays it. To avoid consuming that content, you pay again, isn't it? Chairman, welcome to the remarks. Asanteni sana.
Recognizing everyone present, Katiba, UNESCO Commission, Internews, Fatima, our colleagues from the board who have attended, Tabitha Mutemi, Temesi Mukani, colleagues from Complaints Commission Zawaya Musau and Nasra, Secretary General KUJ Eric Odur, President Keg Zubeida. My colleague, I had not seen him, he sat on the left, Dr. Abduba Ido. In the board also. William Olojanak, I can never leave him behind, where is he? Yes. Today, and all protocols observed, if I have not seen you, I have not acknowledged you, I have acknowledged everyone. Today is a day that, as you sit here and listen, has a note of nostalgia. Nostalgia is from long ago. What we remember, how radio shaped you, and how we are trying to hold on to it despite the total runaway technology that has come into media space. When you listen to SG talking, he is remembering the old days when he used to line up Everready. When I remember my colleague, something you may not know about me, my colleague Tabitha Mutemi was my classmate. She used to go to KBC. She was a young girl. It's a long time ago with me. We were in the same class. And while she's there, we would gather around the hostel radio to listen to her because she's our colleague. What you may not know, another very good friend of mine I value is called Olo Janak. My first job in Migori, earning 3,000 bob, should tell you when that was. Olo Janak welcomed me, showed me the ropes, and where to go to which telephone booth to file a story to Nairobi. Very analog those days. And how to get stories and disseminate. And we relied on radio a lot those days. My nostalgia, like everybody has, is from a young age I was a serious football fan. And there was no TV. The only way was radio. And like CEO's radio in Akelewa Kitambaa, my old man's radio was older. It was a transistor. I'll never know what transistor meant. He married the mother of the listener. So, and they were all open, they were all switched on like this. There was nothing going round. You press something, and if you press the wrong one, it goes to BBC. And you have to return to the Kiswahili one. And once you get the Kiswahili one, I can still tell you the whole lineup of Harambee Stars of those days. Not like now, where you watch it from the palm of your hand, and when Arsenal is drawing 1-1 at midnight, you are still there. There's nothing to miss. So, clapping today, we would like, despite what has come, despite where we are, to have radio remain, but to have radio not disrupted by the technology, but to be shaped and made more by the technology, so that we don't lose the new technologies. It is an honor to address you on World Radio Day 2026, under the theme Radio and Artificial Intelligence. Artificial intelligence, whenever it's being mentioned now, hits you two ways. It can obliterate your job, and it's doing it a lot. Or you can step on it and go higher. You can step on it and make profit. Introduce more order than there is. This theme speaks directly to the policy and governance questions confronting the media industry as technology change accelerates, particularly the responsibility of regulators to ensure innovation advances the public interest while safeguarding democratic values. Because AI will either give you that or take it away. And you don't own it. It's owned by everyone. And they don't ask you for permission for what they throw at you. They put it there, and it's upon you to know what to do with it. So as a regulator, it also finds you there. And most of the challenges it's posing have never been seen before. So we are just having to grow with it. Radio remains the most trusted and widely accessed medium in Kenya. Fatima said it's trusted, reaching over 90% of the population, as I've seen on this report, and serving as a critical channel for information. As her mom used to listen to Mustasari every day. She trusts it. Public dialogue and cultural expression. It's certainly its centrality to our democratic life, especially in rural and underserved communities, demands policy frameworks that protect its editorial independence while ensuring accountability, professionalism, and adherence to ethical standards. Hapo at ethical, in Kiswahili you say hapo kwa ethical, is a junction, because that's what will generate a lot of debate. And so how do you deal with it? As a regulator, you have to think while chasing it. From a governance perspective, AI represents a structural shift in how media content is produced. Everybody has become a journalist at night, by day, from wherever they are, using AI. They don't have to write what they are giving you, distributed and consumed. This shift requires regulators and policymakers to move beyond reactive regulation. Because if you are reactive, it will overtake you. And adopt forward-looking approaches that anticipate risk. Risk is very high. Address emerging ethical concerns and create enabling environments for responsible and transparent innovation within the media sector. It's giving you, as a regulator, it's giving you a job whether you like it or not. And you cannot sit there. And it's coming from all directions, more than you have ever known. As a Media Council of Kenya, we recognize that policy must strike a careful balance. Innovation is essential for the sustainability and competitiveness of the media industry, particularly for radio broadcasters navigating audience fragmentation and digital disruption. However, this innovation must be guided by clear ethical standards that safeguard accuracy, editorial responsibility, human oversight, and public interest. In my first closing, I'll say this. I might have 5. International normative frameworks, including UNESCO's recommendation on the ethics and artificial intelligence, provide valuable guidance in this regard. These principles emphasize transparency, accountability, human agency, and respect for human rights, values that align closely with Kenya's constitutional order, particularly the guarantees of freedom of expression, access to information, and the long-standing tradition of media self-regulation. You know, Kenya, we, especially at the Media Council of Kenya, that's what we stand with, self-regulation. So despite being guided, a lot will still be left to your discretion. The self-regulation model of the Media Council can now not chase you in every corner where artificial intelligence is concerned. You'll have to follow a lot of your own guidance. Learn by yourself. If you open many sites these days, they are teaching you how to deal with AI, how to make AI your partner, how to profit from it, how to monetize, knowing that it can also demonetize you, as we are seeing in Kenya. Not in Kenya, just the whole world. Digital disruption is demonetizing the space rather than monetizing it. And with those few remarks, like our SG said, we say, Viva World Radio Day. Asanteni sana.
Thank you, Chairman. And thank you for telling us, hello, Janaka alikuonyesha mahali kulikuwa simu ya kupiga file story. But when you told me the story alone, you told me kuna mahali hello, Janaka alikuonyesha na hujasataja hapa, ni sawa tu. Now, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the PS, we have Temesi Mukani. The PS was on his way here, but ameitwa mbio akakimbia kwenda airport. He's landing where he was called, you know how it works. So he sent Bwana Temesi Mukani, the Secretary Information, to come and give his remarks. Bwana Temesi, karibu sana. Makofi kwake. By the way, don't worry, there is tea and lunch thereafter. Kwa hivyo hata nguvu ikiisha tutarudisha. Karibu sana.
Asante sana David, thank you very much. World Happy Radio Day. Because you guys were looking so gloomy, eh? So that one, Happy World Radio Day, good people. I'm glad to see you and to reconnect with good old friends of mine, because I have been around also, so I have very many friends in this room. So, as David has told you, my boss was on his way here, and then he was told, you know, it's that season, eh? Kila mtu achunge mkate yake. So it is us, the desk officers, who can be ordered around. For them, wanaambiwa ndege ya jeshi iko tayari, tunaelekea. So, as is protocol in government, I will first read my PSS speech and then say a few things as a member of Humusalaba Radio Salams Club. Nakumbuka sisi ndio tulikuwa tunatuma salamu. So, this is the speech by Mr. Stephen Isaboke, who is the Principal Secretary for Broadcasting and Telecommunications. So, first of all, let me recognize Chairman, Board of the Council of Media Council, Bwana Maina, our CEO, David, Secretary General, Bwana Eric Odwor, and congratulations on your election, and everyone else within the room. Good morning. It is a distinct honor to address this distinguished gathering as we mark World Radio Day 2026 under the theme, Radio and Artificial Intelligence. AI is a tool, not a voice. In an age of rapid digital disruption, radio remains resilient, adapting to new technologies while staying rooted in public service, community connection, and national identity. The government of Kenya regards radio as an essential public interest infrastructure anchored in our constitution. It plays a critical role in civic education, disaster response, peace building, and national cohesion, consistently providing timely, life-saving information. Today, radio reaches over 30 million Kenyans, representing nearly 8 in every 10 adults, making it the most widely accessed medium in the country. It transcends geographical, economic, and social barriers, reaching urban centers and remote communities in languages people know and trust. In doing so, it remains a powerful instrument of inclusion within Kenya's expanding digital economy. Under the digital superhighway and creative economy pillar of the Better Plan, we as government are investing in a transmission infrastructure, spectrum efficiency, and digital systems that strengthen the broadcasting ecosystem. At the same time, we recognize radio as a major employer and enabler of livelihoods, supporting journalists, presenters, producers, technicians, advertisers, musicians, and content creators, many of whom are young people. As we look to the future, artificial intelligence is reshaping broadcasting generally, from audience analytics and content scheduling to translation and transcription. AI presents an opportunity to deepen inclusion, speech-to-text services, local language translation, and adaptive content that expands access for persons with disabilities and marginalized communities, which aligns fully with our constitutional principles of equity, universal access to information. As we embrace AI in the sector, we must remember that trust is the cornerstone of broadcasting. AI in broadcasting should therefore be a tool, not a voice. This is a position that is advanced in the Kenya National Artificial Intelligence Strategy 2024 to 2030, which emphasizes that AI must enhance productivity and inclusion while remaining firmly anchored in human oversight, ethical standards, and public interest values. As I conclude, allow me to congratulate the Kenyan media fraternity, led by the Media Council of Kenya, for the opportunity to host the 2026 Pan-African Media Summit and Media Excellence Awards in Mombasa this May. It is my pleasure to officially launch the countdown to this signature event. Finally, as we commemorate World Radio Day 2026, we commit to a future where radio remains vibrant, innovative, trusted, and fully integrated into Kenya's digital transformation while staying true to its public service mandate. As a ministry, we remain committed to expanding radio broadcasts to reach all of Kenya's unserved and underserved regions. In this regard, we continue to work through the state broadcaster Kenya Broadcasting Corporation and partners as demonstrated by the recent revival of NOSIM FM. Our ultimate goal is to develop a robust broadcasting ecosystem that strengthens democracy, drives the creative economy, and leaves no Kenyan behind. Thank you all, and once again, happy World Radio Day 2026. I have done my official bit. Now let me say a few things as the desk officer and as a member of the Salams Club. And also just reflect on the nostalgia that is radio. You know, I grew up in a region that is of high radio consumption. We are Mulembe Nation because of greetings. Mulembe Mia, Mulembe Swa. You see it, eh? We greet. Even saying sana sana in my place is, you respond by saying sana sana. It's a greeting. So we are very nostalgic about radio. We have a very close connection with radio. But let me say a couple of things. My fondest memories of radio is a program that used to come every Thursday at 10 p.m. called Radio Theatre by a gentleman called Nzau Kalulu. May God rest his soul in eternal peace. Not Nzau Musau. No, this Nzau of nowadays, ni mutu ya gazeti. Then there used to be, strange enough, all my favorite shows used to come very late in the night. There's something called Salamu za Majeshi with Jeff Mwangemi. You know, we used to stay late, but still made it to class anyway. And so my love for radio dates back to that era. But I want to say two other things before I sit down. One is that I know David and all the stakeholders, the biggest question we have in the sector is about media sustainability. But even as we discuss media sustainability this May during the Pan-African Summit, I want us to spare a special place for radio. And this is where I want to say it. You know, I think radio is the most resilient mass media that we are left with. When devolution began, we didn't tell anyone to devolve media, but radio devolved itself. I think Victor is fond of telling us that there are so many homegrown radio stations across all the 47 counties except 2 counties. Yeah? So it tells you how radio has been able to navigate all these transitions, including I'm very certain that radio will survive even this transition with AI and everything else. Number 2, you look at the media architecture or the media landscape in the country. Actually, some media houses, the big ones, have lived off radio. And without even naming names, there are stations that have completely, or media houses that have lived off radio, telling you that, when everyone else was doing everything else, those ones that are invested in radio in advance have been able to survive. So let's study this medium called radio and see how best it can help us navigate some of these spaces that we have, we are going through. Lastly, Victor tells us, I can't see Victor in the room. Victor tells us we are about 350 radio stations from one, when radio was baba na mama na nusu ya kuonana. So we have grown that rapidly. And, as we are here, we are now entering what we call a radio season. Radio and our politics, they are tied together. if you analyze radio ownership in the country, you realize all our big players in the political system own a radio station, one or two. Some own even more. So there's a very close connection between our democracy and radio. So that's also another area that we need to look at and see how best we can leverage this interest in radio as a medium of communication. And so you will see a lot of radio become very active for the next 17 or so months, and it will become the medium of choice for politics this season. So as a ministry, we are alive to some of the issues that has been raised here in terms of monetizing content by media houses. And generally we have a conversation with big tech on how best, because even before content creation became a buzzword, the earliest content creators were on radio and the mainstream. So content creation is not new. The only thing is that the models of content creation have changed, and as government we have a responsibility to make sure that everybody benefits from the works that they put in. So as I conclude, I want to once again thank you everyone, the stakeholders in the radio sector, for the investment and the commitment that you have continued to invest in this sector, and to wish you all a happy World Radio Day 2026. Asanteni sana.
Not much is left except to reaffirm that this year we have the 14th Annual Media Excellence Awards and the Pan-African Media Summit in Mombasa from kutoka tarehe ngapi, Christian? Ideally watu wanaenda Mombasa kutoka tarehe 12 na tutatoka Mombasa after 17th. Na in case kama tumeenda na simu yetu imezimika, don't worry, we will call you. For the journalists and media houses, please continue filing your stories. Please contribute for the awards. This time we are awarding journalists and media houses. And you are all invited. If you land in Mombasa, we will pay for the food and drink. Vile utafika huko, kama unataka kuenda, look for Christine. She knows how people will go there. So I wish you all the best. Bwana Mukani, now, unless there is any objection, Chairman PS, can we declare the opening session done now so that people can proceed for tea? Asanteni sana, and thanks for coming. But we have more after this. Thanks very much. Please continue the clap.
us get back inside.
Ladies and gentlemen, I wish to invite you back to the second part of our commemoration of the World Radio Day 2026. At this point, I want us to go into a panel discussion, and I would like to invite the panelists, Jamila Yesho, Acting Deputy Registrar, Media Council of Kenya, Complaints Commission. Who are my fans, eh? Nice, nice. I wish to invite Young Muthomi, Managing Editor, Royal Media Services. I can't see you, Young. Oh, there you are. I wish to invite Kelvin Nyangweso. How you sit is really your business now. You can decide how to mix the gender. Kelvin Nyangweso, Association of Kenya Community Media Operators. Na nyinyi muturudishie kipindi ya kutuma salamu tafadhali. Patricia Joseph, Programs Manager, Katiba Institute. Simaloe Dajom, Head of Broadcasting Nation Media Group. If everyone can see her, she was here a minute ago. Alphonse Shiundu, Country Editor, Africa Check. I hadn't seen you. How are you? Karibu sana. Abraham Marita, Project Manager, Internews. Julia Wanjiko, Chief Producer, National Services, KBC. Patricia, thank you for coming. Good. I see you have divided yourselves in a nice way. I want to take the mic, or you can sit with it. All right, so in a few minutes we will be joined by Simaloe Dajom. I know she's around somewhere. She's just walked out of the room for a minute. So we have a really big panel, but we have to get this discussion going. And this panel, with the topic they have been given, it is diverse, and then it is pretty much the same. It is converging. We're talking about ethics and legal obligations in maintaining audience trust through information integrity. That reference to information integrity, I want you to put some thought to it. What is information integrity? What does it require us who are in the media to do? What is the media expected to do? Is it just about accuracy, fairness, objectivity, accountability? What is information integrity? I want to welcome my panel and to say karibu sana and thank you for showing up. And now we're going to start this discussion. I am tempted to make the lawyer among you speak last, so that she can straighten up where you may have gone halfway and not reach the really the tail end. But I want to start with the media itself. So I'm going to put Young Muthomi on the spot. You will be the first to speak. Royal Media Services. How many stations? 14, 15? Or you have reached 16 now? 13. Your colleague here is really, running. Julia is running, what? There are 20 what? 23? 23 stations. All of them speaking in different languages. The 23 includes Kiswahili and English. Okay, so 23 minus 2 is 21 local language stations. Now I want us to think about that information integrity. How does a media station, a media house, Mudhomi, how do you ensure that information integrity? Remember, in the media, there's, I'd say, 3 broad aspects to the media. There is collection of that data, there is processing of that data and information, and then there is dissemination of that data. How do you ensure integrity in these 3 aspects as you're doing broadcasting, as you're doing collecting of information? How would you ensure that happens? Speak to us like mtu kwa ground. Mahali vitu ni different. So speak to us from there. Don't go the legal way. Just the simple things that you do.
Thank you so much. And first, happy World Radio Day to everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I'll do exactly what you said. First of all, is we ensure that everyone in all that chain of gathering, producing, and disseminating the news content, which I am overall in charge of, is aware of what is that integrity. So it's important for us that we have trained all our journalists, from the correspondents to the reporters. So the job of ensuring quality is not left to the gatekeepers or having a fact-checking desk, but it is the job of everyone, from the one who is gathering content, who is packaging, and most of those people actually who gather content, they do packaging, where there could be a dissemination of the same. So we are on the same page in terms of understanding what is required, what proper journalism is, what we should follow. So everyone is aware, and it makes it easy for us to ensure quality. Thank you.
At least you have taken us to the fact that there is an aspect of training and good knowledge of, that particular content. I wish to now go to Julia. We are starting with the media themselves. Watu kwa ground. Julia, 21 stations down the line. 2 in English, one in English, 1 in Kiswahili. And now I'm thinking, how do you balance that editorial independence with the transparency, still ensuring that you have integrity?
Good. Let me see. Good morning. It's still morning. Good morning. Happy World Radio Day. Let me take this opportunity to invite you to the World Radio Week celebrations at KBC just across. So after this, feel free to come with your cowboy hat. It's the climax today, and we have a sundowner event in the evening.
Wow.
Until your feet cannot keep you up anymore. So karibuni sana. So Christine, to your question, how do we balance integrity, 21 stations with, just to confirm I had your question well.
Yes, that's correct.
So what we do at KBC, 21 stations, no doubt, is massive. It's not unique to us at KBC. But what we do is that our news and our content, mostly our news, usually comes from the newsroom, so the editorial department. So we do not replace principles like accuracy and verifying before you amplify, even in an AI age. And in as much as we train our journalists and correspondents, because our vernacular stations work mostly with correspondents, what we do is that we ensure there is one desk, which is usually the editorial desk, the editorial department, where these stories come from, and they are verified. We work closely with the Kenya News Agency to ensure that correspondents out there don't just send stories and the person in studio just, goes on air with them. So there are checks and balances to ensure that it's not just correct information, it's information that our listeners can, verify and say that if KBC said it, sisi ndio nusu ya kuonana. So if KBC said it, then it happened. Thank you.
For sure, if KBC said it, then it did happen. I don't know about that now. Maybe you could tell us, are you on Instagram? Are you on TikTok? Are you on...
Okay.
Yeah.
We are on Instagram.
Nice.
We are on TikTok. Maybe I should ask if any one of you has interacted with our social media platforms.
And X?
We are on X. So we are on LinkedIn. We are there.
Nice.
Yes.
Nice. So baba na mama msione ni kama iko ancient sana, sio wazee. Wako na majenzi in there. And this is actually where you begin to see how radio has changed. I actually took a walk there this morning, and they have a whole display. I was even amazed by some things which I have seen, which I had never seen in my life, of how radio how that dissemination of information through radio, how it was done many years before I was even born. I want to go to Kelvin Nyangweso. Nyinyi ndio watu mko ground, okay? Association of Kenya Community Media Operators. At the time, community media was beginning to blow out and get really big and gain some traction with the audiences. We had come into the 2020s, maybe you call late 1990s, but more in the 2020s. By that time, the radio space had already gone through some transformations. We had moved from analog, we had come into digital, we had now come into the internet. In fact, when the community stations were coming in, we were now coming into the internet proper. They were actually broadcasting using the internet. Now, we've gone into AI. And I am wondering how things have changed. The audiences you are talking to, I can speak a little bit for my village. 3/4 of the people there have Katululu. You know that little phone? Your smartphone hawajafika huko. They are not yet there. But you're still able to reach to them. But I'm wondering, has anything changed in the content and how you're disseminating this information ethically?
Thank you so much, Christine. First of all, I want to say this day is a special day for me. I managed to assist and set up like 5 community radio stations across the country, and mostly some in the periphery, in Kakuma, Tana River, and in Congo, the northern Kivu, where we experience war. Yeah, for Peace Radio.
In what languages are those ones speaking? Is it a language that you speak, perhaps?
Actually, we did a campaign whereby we translated about 24 languages, yes, during COVID-19. So that means we have more languages within that we can incorporate. But specifically, there's a difference also between the mainstream private-owned radio stations, which speak vernacular, and we have specific for community radios, which are licensed under the category of community radios. So getting back to how we disseminate this content and what has really changed. So basically, we are in the verge of transformation of a digital platform, and so we utilize on the social media and the internet platform to disseminate this content. So mostly you see we do live streaming where we have the audio visual, we have vlogs, and then also we have podcasts. So these are platforms that need to disseminate this content. But also where it comes a little bit different is that when we incorporate the issue of AI in disseminating this content, because majority of our stations speak in those local languages. So the transformation and the translation to put these languages or the message in this context, it becomes a challenge. But luckily, we've seen Google now, they've added Kikuyu and the Luo, in their works. So I believe more languages can be incorporated to inform the community better. But yes, in terms of analyzing the audience, in terms of analyzing and refining our content, specifically, the AI has enabled the newsroom to have this transformation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I want to go to Simaloi. Simaloi, you are from Nation Media Group. Big media house, large audience, I suspect. But now I want to just find out, how can radio hosts cultivate some level of trust with listeners? You know, when the reporters are reporting some really complex issues or even controversial issues, how do they keep trust? Because again, remember, we know those hosts outside of studio. And we know they are persuaded to associate with certain thinking, certain political parties. But then when they come into studio, how do we, in fact, you as a big media house, how can you ensure that you cultivate trust with the listeners such that they don't say, Simaloy, in fact, we know is an affiliate of XYZ party. Therefore, whatever she says here, take it with a big pinch of salt from that party. How would you do that? How do you do that?
Thanks, Christine. I think trust is the currency with which we operate as an industry at large. So before I went to the largest media house, which is Nation, I have had an opportunity to lead about 20 radio stations and other media stations before. So the question of trust cuts beyond, size might not even be the issue, credibility would be. So I'm seeing some colleagues here. I've had a chance to work with Young and manage the 14 stations there and train a good number of the media houses. And that question comes up as well. There is no shortcut to truth. Actually, there are not two versions to truth. So what I instill and practice in my day-to-day responsibility in collaboration with editorial is fact-checking. That one is non-negotiable. We don't have to be fast. We are not in a hurry to break news or to get the most likes, but we are willing to wait for the truth. A good example is when the Right Honorable Raila Odinga passed away. And while this information was already out there in the public, people kept calling the team in studio, and I could see the Fixing the Nation team's phone just kept ringing, and everyone was calling and asking, is it true? Is it true? How kwa nini hamja post? Yeah? So they were waiting, and I think that speaks to the credibility that media, both radio and mainstream media, still has, which is our currency. But I think we don't communicate it strong enough, especially to the business community, and instilling it as a culture, not as a one-off. So for the teams that I work with, prep is not optional, research is not optional. It doesn't matter how long you have been on air, you cannot just arrive and go on air. So prep has to be done, and then of course, the facts have to be verified. Thank you.
Excellent. Give the microphone to Marita. And Marita, I'm looking at you probably coming from a training and capacity building perspective of the journalist. And just asking, how do you prepare then a journalist who's going to get into the media now, not necessarily academic training, but building their capacity to know how to use their skills well, keep the audience, remain trustworthy, uphold information integrity. This is tough, because you have AI there competing with you as a journalist, competing with citizen journalists, competing with alternative information. I know Simaloy has said the truth is truth. There is no alternative truth. But I dare say, you know, in that space there is now alternative truth, another truth what somebody else is pushing. How then do we prepare our journalists to be able to handle that kind of a situation with the kind of pressures that come with timelines and deadlines, you know, and the need for speed? How do you prepare that journalist?
Yeah, thank you, Christine. What Simaloy has mentioned is quite important, that what media should rely on is trust. But what makes or breaks trust in our industry right now It's a lot of things, and mostly they emanate from external forces, like, for example, having other bodies, institutions, or authorities discrediting media in its role, in doing its work, as well as the technological developments that have allowed individuals to become household names in regards to spreading information. So more or less, if an audience is not very well prepared, they might consider them as their new sources of information instead of relying upon independent sources of information like media houses. So when we conduct training or capacity enhancement to journalists, we basically want to focus on the reason why journalism exists, to be able to promote information integrity. And information integrity basically means are we doing this kind of work by showing transparency in what we are doing, how we are preparing the information out there? Who is held accountable to this information? Are we promoting that accountability that while we were telling the truth, and I also agree that there's only one truth, if you're telling the truth, are we standing by this truth? Have we verified the sources of information you have gotten to be able to spread this information? And who are the people being relied upon to basically do oversight of these stories that we are doing, so that in any training that we do, because we all learned how to write a story, how to report in journalism school, but to the meaning, the core meaning of itself, why are we doing this? Why is it important for journalists to uphold truth and integrity in their reporting? It comes to the kind of trainings that we do, including, for example, right now, enabling them to understand that AI is changing the space. It's bringing about things that ordinary individuals, including journalists themselves, cannot be able to differentiate whether it's true or false. But how do you remain relevant in that space to ensure that you're upholding your journalistic code of conduct, but as well as advancing your skills to verify the kind of information that you're receiving from different sources, to ensure that now you're now promoting relevant information to your audience and ensure that it's not spreading to affect them. The other thing that I'll mention, it's quite important to also promote media literacy amongst our audience. I'll mention what I watched on NTV, Fixing the Nation. And one of the first shows that I saw was quite impressive. There was some sessions, I don't know where it stopped, Simaloi, on fact-checking, like really taking the audience through why are we saying that a certain post that was posted by a politician or a certain individual is true or false. More or less, this goes to promoting literacy levels amongst the public, and that enables the public now to have their own critical thinking that can enable them avoid manipulation and bring back that trust that is being lost from mainstream media. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, I was going to ask Simaloi that in my next round of questions, but thank you for asking it in advance. I want to go to Patricia. Patricia, I'm looking at the media today, the space where they are and the environment in which they are working. There is this huge thing called AI. There is the internet. And then there is another group of people that have come to play in that space who may not necessarily be journalists. They have information, and sometimes it is factual information. They are citizen journalists. And we are talking about freedom of expression here. Yes, they are entitled to their freedom in their little space, in their blog space, in their, I don't know, their Google page, in all these different spaces that they are coming, and they are sending out information. How then do we maintain media freedom? Because there is freedom of expression and then there is media freedom. How do we maintain that media freedom and uphold the integrity of the media itself so that the media becomes the trusted source compared to the alternative truth? Truth is truth. But yeah, for the alternative information that is coming, dressed up like media. How do we go about that? Are there any, maybe 2 nuggets you could give us of how we can begin to operate in that space as the media, and especially radio?
All right, thank you. And that's quite a complex question. It's very compounded. But I will start by saying, when we talk about freedom of the media, freedom of expression, and now in the context of artificial intelligence, first of all, when you look from the constitutional lens, freedom of expression is broad, and it's actually a right that is accessible to everybody. And it's to everybody has a right to access information, impart people with information. And then we have now this other end of the freedom of the media. And I would say, first of all, in the view of the plurality of the media, and now we have now this, what you're calling in quotes, alternative sources of information, that is a plurality we want to and protect in a society, so that because we thrive, democracy thrives in an environment where there's plurality of ideas and freedom to express yourself, to impart information, to get information. But then, of course, now here we come with the question of AI and also the issues of credibility in terms of information integrity, and then also the issues of accuracy of information. And as from the example given, where individuals who are not subjecting themselves to the media code, for instance, now are not similarly bound. But I'll say that under the freedom of expression, there is what we call the right to express yourself, but then also under Article, I think 33(2), there is also speech that is not protected. And this would be now speech that, for instance, advances hate speech, for instance. We also have now laws that now have also been enacted to create limitations to exercise of some rights, which also must be by law. When those limitations are created, for instance, there's those ones that there's a thin line in balancing between the right of expression itself and then also placing limitations on our rights. I think part of the solutions are both legal and unlegal. Legal in the sense that the law puts limits on rights that encroach on other rights, or rights that advances harm of other rights, or rights that now, for instance, that advances hate speech or cause to harm for a certain group of people. But then also non-legal would be, and this is some of the principles we've been seeing developing in terms of advancing information integrity. We will combine both legal and unlegal in terms of the non-legal would be building society trust and resiliency. And resiliency here is in terms of, can the people be in a position not to withstand manipulation? Can society be able to differentiate between the truthful and untruthful information? And this is where I feel the stronger role of media houses comes in, because they have the machinery, the mechanisms, the audience. The media still has the audience in terms of the numbers and reach, in terms of creating sensitivities to the public, and also leading the conversations on fact-checking and verifying information. We see that really coming from the media houses. But then also, I think we will reach a point where we see an expansion of what is ethics for media. So that ethics for media exists as we know today, but then also advancing ethics for people who have audiences, and these are now what we call practitioners who are not necessarily journalists, because they are also bound by the law to advance, to share and impart information and also receive information, but to do it within the limits of the law. We know that some laws have been enacted to try and create that balance of, for instance, publishing false information, but we have seen the way it is done right now. It has been an encroachment of a right, and it can actually be applied against even media. That's why we call for a limitation of the law that respects the Constitution, but not undermine. So I'm saying here there's a very thin line. But just to say also in the context, maybe in the broader conversation about AI and implications of AI in terms of both access to information and advancing information integrity, we have now, in fact, evolved to a question of where we talk about constitutionalism, but now we're also talking about digital constitutionalism. So that now we are not creating a new constitutional normative framework, but we are saying digital constitutionalism is an evolution of constitutionalism as we know it, so that now it starts to encompass aspects of protection of rights in the digital sphere, liabilities for all medium that are using AI, because it creates new liabilities. For instance, if let's say government or even non-state actors is using maybe AI systems to process data or information, then it creates liabilities it creates responsibilities to the audience, and this now applies to everybody. And then thirdly, now having the element of the tech companies, and it will come back to the question that you have asked me earlier, where now tech companies also have a responsibility because they have been leading, or rather they have monopoly of how technology has been developing. Now it's the idea of bringing them into the realm of the law, so that even now when we have private citizens, for instance, using the digital platforms and tech platforms to advance information, where there is now a violation of rights, for instance, there's a dual duty between the person who is actually doing that, spreading that information. Let me say an example of the deep fakes, but then also the tech platforms also have a responsibility. So that also addresses that question you're asking about, how do we now address the issue, so that now even tech platforms themselves now understand they have a role in terms of, for instance, content moderation cannot be used to advance hate speech. It's a responsibility for the person advancing it and the tech platform, which is giving people to advance that hate speech through those platforms.
That's really complicated, because if I create a platform, and I'll use just a simple example. If I create a chair, I intend it for sitting on, but somebody picks that chair and uses it as a weapon. Now you're going to want to hold me responsible for, causing or creating a weapon. It's really complicated, but complex. It is where we are.
Yeah, it's complex, and I could add an example of an ongoing case that I wouldn't want to discuss in detail, but also the case against, for instance, Meta, Facebook platforms. One of the elements is the issues of how the content moderation, and it was used, the content moderation and the hate speech that was used to advance through the Facebook, the Meta platforms. That is still an ongoing case, but it shows these are becoming live issues besides other issues that have arisen. Sure. Or now we see why we also say there's a responsibility now for tech platforms, because when we talk about information integrity, we talk about not only access, accuracy, but access in the broader sense of inclusion. So inclusion means that whatever we do, even in our both traditional and now new technology advanced systems, advanced equality must not lead to discrimination. True. So now if access leads to discrimination, then there's a problem. So even the chair you're describing, maybe how it was designed, if someone cannot sit on it, or someone is excluded from using it, and in this case where we call the algorithmic bias, then there's an accountability that arises there.
True. Yeah. Very true. Shundu, it is you that I want to now talk to, because you have seen now the complexities. You've heard from Watu are ground, the ones with the radio stations, the challenges they have, some of the things that they have been doing, and now I'm moving into information, misinformation, disinformation. We're talking about information integrity now, but then the environment that the media is operating on is saturated with misinformation and disinformation. The social media platforms are creating a really big challenge to what we would call traditional media, what we would call even mainstream media, because the media as we have it now is what is called mainstream, up to and including the X page of KBC. It is traditional media. But now there's everybody else who has come into that space. How then can these, I'll call them traditional media or well-defined media houses, how can they face that challenge of the saturation of misinformation and disinformation? I know you're telling all of us to now have some fact-checking desk and so on and so forth, but hey, who is going to do the other side? How do we deal? How do we deal? We are in that space and we are competing with the alternative truth.
Thank you. So you are very right on the saturation of misinformation and disinformation. But what we worry most about are the patterns. Because with social media, there is all this explosion of falsehoods. And they travel faster that even if all these media houses partner and they go out to debunk them minute by minute, they might not be in a position to do that. So there are three pillars that I think media houses can use to help with that work. Pillar number one has been mentioned here. It's about the trust that audiences put in the media. That trust grants them credibility. The second pillar, it's about the work itself, where you verify before you publish, you debunk what has not been debunked, and whatnot, and then you amplify accurate information. Now, the third pillar, it's what we have to think about more. It's called audience resilience. Now, this is where we should be thinking about giving audiences the intellectual tools or the cognitive paradigm against which they are going to interpret or process the information that they see or they hear on radio. With mainstream media, your trust is also something that amplifies misinformation. And let me just explain using one example that we saw with some of the people we work with in DRC. So there's a radio station called Radio France International, RFI. It broadcasts in Kiswahili in Goma area, South Kivu, that part. So this journalist does a very good broadcast. He's a very credible journalist. Everybody knows him. So it's like, who would that be in the Kenyan context? The person, Eric Latif. If Eric Latif says something, people are likely to believe. So there was a case where somebody cloned the voice of this journalist, and using TTS technology, text-to-speech technology, which is increasingly getting very good, they made him say the opposite of what was happening on the ground, and they added the jingle of RFI before the news, and they also created the vox pops and inserted within the news item. It was a very good operation, and then they sent out via WhatsApp. So people were listening to the voice, and they were like, if RFI has reported this, then it must be true. So by the time the RFI team was going to debunk and say it's not us, that was going on. But kudos to the RFI team, they are quick. And speed for the mainstream media, for community media, speed is your asset when it comes to dealing with this information pollution that we have. So speed is your asset. And I would just want to mention one more thing. So for the people in the room, you can just check out retailai.com and see the possibility of it making your work in radio difficult. So what you can do with it, it has perfected, and it is perfecting the agentic use of AI, where you create, I can create an AI presenter, and because radio is all about patterns, patternisho, Giddy and Ghost would have, they would call somebody, and they would ask that person something, and that person will respond, and then they will connect to another person, and then it will be laughter and jokes and banter and whatnot. So once you understand that pattern, you can take that content and put it on an AI platform to train it. So for as little as $17, when you go to 11 Labs, it's an AI tool. You can dump in whatever training data you have. It will train it. Then you can take it and take that content the way it is, transcribe it with whatever tool, whether Otter or Gemini or whatever, and import it into Retail AI. Once it's there, it can do anything. Like, it can be the presenter, it can create all those people, it can, like, whatever you want it to do, you can automatically make it do. And you can add the music, you can, whatever you want it to do. So The challenge for us, it's that we could be thinking about fake radio broadcasts.
Yeah.
Yeah. When we were starting with fact checking, we were telling people it's gonna get to a point where things are gonna be faked that you won't be, and people were like, "No, we'll see all these things." Right now, number one, we had a fake manifesto in 2022, like a complete, well-edited, designed fake manifesto.
Yes.
Right now, we're seeing fake voices. Just one more thing, and then I shut up on the fake voices. So there was, you have somebody like Nyambane, KJ, and Tony Njuguna. Those are the grandfathers of mimicking impressionist radio, where they would mimic the president, mimic the whatever public figure or Raila Odinga. Now, if you take somebody who is mimicking, or you take Raila's voice, and you train it again on 11 labs, and you type whatever you want that voice to say, and it says it, and then you take it and you sambaza on your WhatsApp group that Baba said this before about Sifuna or something, then that can be... Before Young or Simaloi, before you guys dig the archives to find out was this said or not, everybody is sharing it and saying this is the situation. So I think that is what we're experiencing on the information integrity and information resilience building field, and we worry that unless people are taught, not to just the dichotomy of, oh, it's false or true, but the context of how do I know this is true, and how can I anticipate or verify or do these things, then it's going to be difficult to really counter falsehoods on radio. Thank you.
I'm very scared, guys. I'm very scared because soon enough, probably by the time I get to that door, someone will have cloned me and made me say something here, which I didn't say. And I'll be asking, might I have just said it? You know, it's at that level now where we really need to be very, 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 very scared. So I'll go to Jamila now. Jamila Yesho. This is Wakili in the house, guys, the lawyer in the house. And so I'm just looking at compliance to the regulations that we have, but also apart from just compliance, I'm thinking about different formats that we use. I'm thinking about phone-ins. But in fact, what you've just described has thrown me completely off balance. I'm thinking to myself, I can sit here and create that fake voice and pose a question to the Situation Room or to, Good Morning Kenya or whichever program, and you can't find that person. I can create hate speech and just throw it out there. So how, as the media now, Jamila, I know there's tons of regulation that we have, guidelines, etc. But when it comes to things like listener phone-ins and user-generated content, now that will be user-generated content, I will sit here and say, but I was just being creative and just throw it out there. But then, who's going to regulate me? And how does the person in studio even know that this could actually be user-generated content that has been manipulated? How do we now begin to work with it? Because it's very unpredictable. And it may not even be covered in the law. Because that kind of scenario you have described, I don't think it exists anywhere in any of the laws. We will have to really look and underline and find the very fine print and now go into the aspect of interpretation of that law. But now, me who is sitting in studio and that has just been thrown to me, is there anything that I can fall back on and say, hold on a minute, there was this, in the law to protect me?
Thank you, Christine. Happy World Radio Day. So
you didn't answer her. I want to be sure you're listening. You are not very busy there creating something. Shundu gave us a place to go, and I'm suspecting there's somebody paying that $17. Be careful.
So the media is in a very interesting and unique position because the law provides protective measures, but again, the law provides sort of guardrails on how you can operate within that space, even with emerging technologies. So while we enjoy the freedom of the media under Article 34, this freedom comes with responsibility. And this responsibility is anchored in the Code of Conduct for Media Practice. And it allows journalists to conduct their journalistic duty. However, it does not absolve you from certain responsibilities, things you need to ensure before you conduct your journalistic duty you have complied with. So should anything go wrong after, you're able to rely on the shield. Again, the law protects you, but the law will only protect you if you've adhered, and that's compliance. For example, the Code of Conduct, well, we are talking about, this is a very progressive regulation. It's a standard that has been set. We always, often than not, say that the law tries to keep up with innovation. And this is a classic example because the Code of Conduct for Media Practice has done just that. It is keeping up with innovation, and it has provided in its clauses exemptions, and it's how it has been drafted, it's more or less a checklist, and it even guides journalists. While you're conducting your journalistic duty and you're using AI, you should not misinform. You should get consent. You should ensure there's editorial responsibility because the buck stops with the editor. In as much as you're using all these new innovations that are coming up, have you complied with the law at the end of the day so that the law will protect you in the event that something comes up? And we've seen this even with user-generated content, as Christine has mentioned. We find even in radio, we invite listeners to send messages on WhatsApp. They usually comment on our social media platforms. That is user-generated content. But the media house, the journalist, the media practitioner has to go ahead and ensure that the information that is there does not cause harm, does not incite, cause violence, hate speech issues, so that even something received on WhatsApp has to go through an editor before it is published. And also another example would be call-ins. For example, when we have listeners calling in, you need consent, especially when personal data is at play. These people are going to give their names, personal identification, depending on the context or whatever is being discussed. In addition, for you to ensure that you have complied, remember, consent has to be informed. This listener needs to know before they call in. You can even have a presenter or a broadcaster mention that. You need to note that when you're calling, it's live, will require you to give this kind of information. There you have complied, and you've carried out your journalistic duty, but at the same time, you've complied with existing laws.
Wow. So we start telling people, okay, so mukipiga simu, please just remember that this is, sometimes it's even, see, it's recorded. Those programs are recorded. This program is recorded. Please note, can you give us consent? So you want the person to start by saying, yes, I give consent. Swali langu ni.
No, consent, because consent has to be informed. And by the time the listener hears the broadcaster mention this, it is clear that they are aware what they are about to do. And even in addition to that, we have the 7-second delay. So this listener is informed. They have consented by actually calling, because that information was relayed before they even called in. And even while they're interacting or engaging online, this listener, the media houses and the journalists can still go further and protect themselves because we have the 7-second delay.
Yes.
So that while you have
given consent for yourself individually, you should not now come in and mention other people and give their personal data or personal information. Now that's where the 7-second delay is. They can either, do we call it beeping? Or the 7-second delay can come in play at that point and also protect other people who are not party to whatever is being discussed
and have not given consent.
And have not given consent. Thank you.
This is getting really hard, eh? It's getting really hard. I want to hear from the audience. I do not want to let you sit there and just receive information. I'd like you to also share and ask questions to our panel here. It's really huge, and I know you've come up with questions. There's a colleague of mine who has a microphone, so if you raise your hand, he'll be able to see you. You can stand up, tell us the media house you come from or the institution you come from, and then you ask your question. This is a student.
Yes.
I know him, that's why I'm saying this is a student. Karibu.
Yeah, thank you. Happy World Radio Day to...
Happy World Radio Day.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Mudhini Ernest Lawrence. As she has mentioned, I'm a student at Daystar University, a communication student. And my question I had 2 questions for the panel. And first of all, thank you very much, MCK, for inviting me and my colleagues today to share this with you great people. So my question is, as a student journalism and a radio presenter in training at Shine FM, how soon can learning of AI be integrated or trained in media institutions? Because one take from here is that AI is here to stay and it should be used as an ally, not as a competition. So how soon will it be integrated to these learning institutions, and what steps will be taken to actualize this?
Okay.
And my second question is, when we came, we were provided with this book by Katiba, and because it was here on the table, I believe it had a purpose, and I decided to skim through it up to chapter 4, Bill of Rights, up to the youth, page 44, I believe. So, about the youth, it says that the youth have a right to access employment and to participate in social, economic, and political, and AI being in all of this. How can the youth or young journalists be involved in this in terms of AI training or becoming policy makers? Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Another question? So Katiba mtajibu hiyo? Good. Another question, comment, question? There's a hand here, Jacob. It's all the way just in front of the the cameras.
Thank you, Jacob. Mine is to the moderator. I just wanted to know whether you invited regulators here, like CA, because these are fairly new area of technology. And when they developed the Kika, 1998, this technology was not there. They have been reviewing it, policy every other time. But for the time being, what is the platform for regulatory intervention in case there is violation of this particular matter? Number 2, I just wanted to request MCK, because they have specialists in AI, to see whether they can give assistance to community radios. We have requested for that, but I hope it is oncoming, but we have not received it because many community radios don't have expertise in AI. Finally, you are aware that CA is introducing migration to digital radio. I don't know who knows about that. Like they did for for TVs. They are going to introduce it. Then they have held forums with us. What I don't know is whether it will be mandatory. If it will be mandatory, how will the consumers of our broadcast receive accessible and affordable receivers? Or are we going, as somebody suggested, going to receive this news or information through our mobile phones, in which case they must be smart? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me just respond to your first question. We did invite Communication Authority. They were even supposed to be part of this panel. We kept on hoping that they will show up. They did not respond as to whether they would come or not. And I think by now we know the answer. They were quite engaged in other national building activities, so they were not able to join us at this particular one. I would really have been happy for them to be here, because that was the question that I had for them of the migration of radio, so that we also see what plan do they have in place. However, Jamila can probably assist in giving some light, maybe not a rule of thumb kind of response, but on whether there is a platform for that regulation, and probably even just look at the gaps. There is something that we have noticed, and when I say we, I am talking about me as a person in the media, me as a person in the council, but also me as a citizen. I noticed that governments and regulations are usually the last to pick up on emerging trends, to put in regulatory frameworks and so on. They're usually very far behind. So I know regulation is going to come. I don't know how soon. Perhaps, Jamila, you can give us a little bit of a platform. But our expectation should always be, they wait and see, how are you guys dealing with it? And then they start thinking, okay, now how do we regulate? How do we guide? And so on and so forth. So Jamila, and then we'll have Katiba Institute. I don't know who will answer the first question. Did you have a person in mind who can respond to your first question? It was open-ended. So anyone who wishes to pick it up, I see Marita smiling, so Marita might just respond to it. So Jamila and then Katiba.
All right, thank you for that question. I think it's important to note that Media Council of Kenya is also is a regulator, and our mandate is anchored on Article 34(5). We regulate media content and the media space. So in addition to Communication Authority, we regulate the space and have set standards through the Code of Conduct for Media Practice, which is a very recent document. It was passed last year, keeping up with new technologies and artificial intelligence to regulate this space. And one of the things it does, it provides the legal obligations, ethical obligations that journalists need to adhere to in their journalistic duty. So the standards have been set by the regulator. Regulatory sanctions are provided for in the Media Council Act. And also, in addition to that, we have the Complaints Commission, which is a quasi-judicial body that is established under Section 27 of the Media Council Act, which plays a critical role in media disputes. So the standard has been set by the regulator. In the event of breach of these ethical standards, we have the Complaints Commission, where the media can complain, and anyone, the member of the public, government, and actually quite recently we have a decision by the Complaints Commission in regard to data protection, whereby it was a win for the media, if you ask me, because the gist of the matter was that somebody complained of a photo that was used by Nation Media Group, and the Complaints Commission interpreted the Code of Conduct, not the recent one, because this matter was filed in 2024, but the principle remains when it comes to matters data protection. And it said that this Nation Media Group used this image for journalistic purposes. The photo that was there was for illustrative and had nothing to do with the person, the individual person. And I think that's a win for the media, where we have seen the standard has been set by the regulator, and here comes a body that interprets and cements the entire space. So for CA, yes, they're quite crucial in the entire spectrum, but they regulate the infrastructure. But when it comes to media content, and I'd like to invite journalists especially, now even with this landmark decision, to utilize such avenues like the Complaints Commission to have these decisions there, because they have jurisprudential values and they even inform other regulatory standards that can be set by MCK.
Thank you. Katiba? Patricia?
All right. The question about the Article 35, the duty, Article 35 on the rights of youth, and the existence of this Article 55 on the youth was a realization that the youth is a special group that needs also a state action to ensure they have access to opportunities of training, employment, and generally the ability to participate in the social, economic, and political life, and also to thrive in the society as a group that has been, for instance, disenfranchised in the previous, historically disenfranchised. And when you look at Article 55 for the youth, you also look at it in context in terms of the Article 27 that calls for non-discrimination. So what I can say in the context of today's discussion, first of all, there is when you talk about rights, we look at rights in two ways. One is as a positive obligation. Here is the duty to do something, and Article 55 really is very prescriptive, the duty to ensure that the youth can access opportunities, have access to education and training. And therefore, in this regard, then you can actually challenge the state's inaction to promote that right. Then also in this provision, we also see the duty also to protect them from harm. And like I could give an example of a case that...
It's okay. Just keep talking. It will come back.
The duty of the state also to protect the youth from exploitation. Let me give an example of that duty. Now with the WorldCoin case, we also what that company came and did, gave people, said people, we can collect your data, then you're paid for this amount of money, and then they collected data and they went. But what happened, there was a case in court, because above all that case, what was challenging the issues of questions of data protection. The company did not follow the Kenyan law in terms of as a data handler. The people did not have informed consent. And then, despite being paid, that was not enough. In fact, it was still unlawful to obtain consent by paying them money. And then also there's also an aspect of dignity in how that issue was done. So if I relate that issues of youth and the role of the state, it's a positive obligation to ensure they have access. I think there's a power fluctuation. The duty to ensure there's access, they have access to those opportunities. Also, where there's non-discrimination, to put in place affirmative measures. And we can actually challenge government policy for failing to do that. And also the failure to protect, for instance, the youth. And the WorldCoin case was an example where there was a failure to protect citizens where their data was being infringed upon, as an example. Okay. So there's actually an opportunity to challenge that kind of inaction. And when it comes for education, for instance, knowing that now artificial intelligence affects all spheres of life. At the start, for instance, does the education curriculum, for instance, adapt to these advancements in a way that now people can understand? There's a duty to educate the public, including the youth, to understand that AI is part of government, for instance, decision making. Yeah. Do we know that duty is there? And we see that the law has not fully evolved. It's like in Kenya, if you compare to some countries where now they're actually advancing what does rights mean, for instance. Yes. It could be the right to be informed that this data or this decision is an AI-generated process or decision. Sure. And then in that case, when I have that information, that is an issue of proactive disclosure of information. So that now when I know that, I can also say, I want a human intervention in this decision. I know we've joked a lot online about Safaricom, how it's so hard to get a customer care service that is not a person. So some laws actually say you have a right to seek a human intervention, even in an AI-generated process. But that comes with proactive disclosure that process is being done by AI-generated processes. So there's a lot that can be done there in terms of information. If government is running youth programs and it is incorporating AI, then they need to know how does AI then affect how those programs are being implemented. Are they leading to more discrimination? Are they promoting fairness? Are they accountable? So there's a lot that can be interlinked between what he's asked about youth and non-discrimination, and also promoting them and protecting them from exploitation.
Okay, Marita, you were smiling, so you can respond to the first question, and I'm going to request that you also make your final remarks because we need to close the panel.
Yeah, thank you. I was smiling because I've seen Dr. Radoli
Yes, she is
Dr.
in the
Hesbon
house.
Are seated together.
We're a student at a B.
Yeah, and I would have said that one of them should have been here to answer that question. But now that I have the mic, I'll say that in my opinion, I don't think that AI needs to be taught in universities. What is important is use of technology and how that adheres to the ethics. For example, I'm glad that we participated in the development of the new code of conduct for media practitioners, as well as the guide on artificial intelligence. And one thing that we kept going back for reference is that we are not trying to regulate technology. Rather, we are trying to corner it on the principles of journalism and ethics to ensure that regardless of how you're going to use this technology, you do remember the principles that you're supposed to adhere to ensure that technology is only aiding your work, but it's not, the result of your work.
Yes.
Why? Because AI will keep changing. My senior, Alphonse, has mentioned things that I didn't know today, and I think tomorrow you'll have something else to tell me. And that will keep happening. So it might be difficult for institutions to really say that this is what we're putting in our program. And as you know, as a country, there are many institutions that take quite a long time to review the curricula. I'm glad to mention that through the work that we have done as Internews, we have partnered with like 5 universities, including Daystar. I don't know whether the young journalist was part of the program, where we promoted digital media literacy for journalism students to begin at that level in school, where they could start understanding some of these technologies on how they can use them to do their work and even prevent dangerous content from going out there. Out of these 5, at least 2 have mentioned that they are really reviewing their curricula to incorporate issues of digital media literacy. And this is better than just focusing on AI in particular, because it will help them now be able to really learn on how to utilize technology in a useful way for their journalistic work.
Thank you.
Finally, it's just to tell everyone that it's a wonderful day, a day that should be celebrated, but most importantly, we need to remember on how we are protecting media freedom in a space that everyone and everything is attacking journalism. Technology is, people are using it negatively. Those who feel infringed by what integral journalistic work is doing, like investigative journalism, will tend to portray media in a negative way. And radio continues to be at the cornerstone for reaching many, many, many audiences. I believe, watu si wajinga, that in the end, you have seen even the report that was shared here by the CEO.
Yes.
Media is being relied upon, and even after what my former colleague mentioned, Simaloi, that people still trust in media. They still go back to traditional media to verify the information they're seeing out there. And we can only continue this work if our work is defended, media freedom is protected, to ensure that we can keep doing the good work that we're doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Give the mic to Simaloi to give us her final remarks. Make them 30 seconds. No, we're named to a radio, so you know this stuff.
Christine, that's a tweet. But I'll try. So what has been running through my mind since I saw the theme for this year's World Radio Day, the conversation we had earlier this morning with the CEO at Fixing the Nation and with the team here, is if we were to ask the media houses represented here, whether community or at every level, is AI their biggest problem or challenge? As we discuss this conversation, are we actually fixing the problem or the challenge that ails media. So I'm going to leave that as food for thought, and hopefully to challenge us next year to also have some of the input and see how we can. I know there's what UNESCO will recommend, but we can also influence that. And we talk. I want to finalize with misinformation, disinformation, because it's critical also in this age. Content is critical, but content is expensive. The cost of developing that kind of content, for instance, the fact checks that we were doing, the researchers, the presenters, the acquisition of the content itself, is ridiculously expensive. So how can we collaborate? Because everybody in this room has a piece to that cog. Before we leave here today, I would just encourage each of us to just find one person and collaborate and unlock one solution. You could be having the media, someone else has the research, another person has the talent or the content. That way, then, we are able to provide a real problem in a real situation that can be able to move the media forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Shundu, final words?
Yeah, quickly, for the gentleman, Mr. Former President, for the Journalism Students Association of Kenya.
Yes.
I don't know how many students are in the room and how many enrolled for the free Google Gemini Pro that was out last year. Any, by the show of hands? No. So, and this is the problem. It's either people do not know. So in the US, and Kenya was among 9 countries in Africa that were part of the program, where Google was offering them free subscription to Google Gemini Pro, the AI tool. It's very useful. They have like very good things that can help you do your work. So I don't know if they are going to reopen it in Kenya. They have reopened it in the US, but probably using your channels or your lobbies, you can lobby Google to see if they can reopen it for Kenya. Yeah, but I agree with Abraham. We do not need to teach AI. And the reason is it's very simple. There are all these courses about, like, what you need is the baseline. There's a free Google course on machine learning. Once you understand that, then you can work with whatever AI tool that you see. And look at China. I just want to invite you to check out Moonshot AI in China, and also check out Qwen, Qwen, by Alibaba. They are developing some very nice, interesting tools that you can use in your journalism, either for photo, video, or whatever. So I would want to thank you and stop them.
Carry on.
All right, mine is just to say, just to reflecting on today's discussion, is that I see a dual role in terms of what obligations emanate and rights in terms of both radio as a consumer and user of AI, and what that means for their own internal and external consumers, and the role of radio as a public good, because Kenyans still really rely on radio, and as conversations about AI and how they impact our political participation, social and economic and cultural participation, then radio plays a good is still in the most important place because of the reach, the audience, ability to relate to people quite intimately than other forms of media, especially in terms of issues of addressing in the local language and being also accessible at the local level. So there's a public role that arises there in terms of where when you talk about citizen oversight in terms of what AI means for governance, then radio plays a role in disseminating that information, and we will be happy to continue this collaboration. Thank you.
Okay. Your remarks.
Thank you so much.
You can't get away, Kevin.
Yeah, I'm visible. So it has been a nice conversation, and the interaction are quite really intriguing. But all these conversations that you're having here are well captured on the media information literacy. So if we can fully have it implemented, then I believe we'll have our journalistic obligation and we'll keep our professional in that standard. Thank you.
Thank you. Muthoni.
Thank you. So for me, my final remarks, as you think of the challenge that Simaloi posed, as we go and ponder on that, if we want to say AI is a tool, then can we blame the same AI for the problems that the media houses are facing? A kitchen knife is a good tool, but it can also kill. So do you say the kitchen knife is bad because it can kill? I think it's the wrong use of the kitchen knife, isn't it? So even in this case, it's just the wrong use of AI, because AI will do many, many wonderful things. It will do a lot of research, heavy lifting. It is, in terms of speed, it's better than human. Where it comes, for example, in analyzing heavy data, it takes a shorter time. Who knows, in future, if we will have those AI presenters, and some stations have tried that. In Australia, we had a company that had a presenter for 5 months before the presenter was discovered. And the beauty with that presenter is there are no disciplinary issues. For a person who is in management, it's a wonderful presenter to work with, isn't it? So let's face it and see, maybe it's a problem of management, it's not a problem of AI, okay? Sure. And then when we say that AI is not coming to take our jobs, let us not be comfortable with that statement. Because if we will have an AI presenter and it takes the place of a person, what has it done? Is it a job that it has taken? Yeah, so if you don't upskill, if you don't, you are not able to work with AI, it will definitely replace you. But if you are able to accommodate AI and use it to make your work easier, so that it can do the routine work, then you do the deep thinking and concentrate on other things, then you do not have to worry. But you can't sit there pretty and comfortable and say that AI will not take my job and do nothing about it.
Thank you. Jamila?
Thank you. Media freedom is anchored in law, but it comes with responsibility. And that includes, part of that responsibility is compliance. Compliance by design, in my view, is the best thing practitioners and the media can incorporate in their journalistic work. Have the necessary procedures in place, have the profanity delay, have ways to get informed consent. That is compliance by design. So in the event of anything, you will not, you'll be able to protect and shield yourself with the laws that are already at play. So compliance by design. Thank you.
Julia, before you invite us to that bash in the evening, just give us some comments, some reflections on our theme today.
So it's been a very insightful conversation, and just to build on what Muthoni said, I remember a few weeks ago there was this whole controversy, I'm sure you heard about it, where the top gospel song in the world was actually AI. And there was this whole conversation amongst Christians. Oh, the Bible says, let everything have breath, praise the Lord. Does AI have breath? You know? So I just want to say that we really must upscale. And maybe it is not AI that will take our jobs just yet, but journalists who upscale and integrate and embrace AI will certainly replace those ones that don't. But even as we say that AI is a tool and not a voice, I just want to reiterate the importance of the human voice and the human touch in broadcasting. We are using all these tools like to reduce noise, noise reduction in recordings. AI can do that, but AI will not tell you what portion of that clip to reduce the noise and what portion is enhanced by the noise. That is still the broadcaster that will do that. I am an adjunct lecturer, and a few days ago, a student asked me, what's the future of radio in an AI world? And this is what I said, and these are going to be my final remarks, that we really cannot replace the human touch in radio. AI will do all these other things, but at the end of the day, the verification that Alphonse was talking about earlier, you won't get away with saying that it is AI that said this if you don't verify. And these are things that we as the human journalists, broadcasters, will still have to do. You still have to verify. You still have to balance. Christine asked me earlier, how do you balance between integrity and these other issues? You have to make that call. AI will not make that call for you. So as I conclude, I just want to reiterate the theme for the day, that AI is a tool and not the voice. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A clap for our panel. I have written a page full of nuggets from this panel. And our colleague here has just brought me a message from somebody who I suspect is working in Wajir or somewhere in Northeastern. And she says, as much as we mark the World Radio Day, we celebrate the power of radio in transforming lives and connecting communities. As journalists serving the pastoralist community, we have endured numerous challenges in our mission to inform, educate, and empower. And she has listed a myriad of challenges that they face, from blackouts to broken equipment and the centralization of where that equipment is repaired. If their mixer breaks down in Wajir, it has to come to Nairobi to be fixed and then go back. What happens in that period of time? So she said, despite these obstacles, we remain committed to serving our people. We are grateful for the opportunity to operate a community media platform that addresses the needs of the often unreached pastoralist community. Radio remains the only reliable platform for information, awareness creation, and community engagement among pastoralists. Happy World Radio Day. I think she's called Miriam or Mariam? Mariam. She's called Mariam. So thank you very much. I want to just say that from this team we have learned quite a number of things. One of the key things is that there is need for audience resilience, where the audience can discern which one is AI-generated content and which one is the fact, the truth. Remember, Simaloi told us the truth is the truth. There is no AI truth and then human truth. We are going to get to that level, AI truth and human truth. We also need to think about AI as an enabler for what we do, not necessarily as coming to replace us. I'll tell you this little sentence of a story. When computers were coming, us who are already in employment, we thought we are all going to be fired because the computers will do everything. But we realized computers are not going to do everything. We still have to be there. Even those people who we thought, hawa kabisa ndio wataenda nyumbani, people who are called secretaries. The secretary used to take notes from the boss, come and type them and give the printed copy. The boss now types for themselves and prints. But did the secretary lose their job? No. They got a totally different job, managing that diary, etc., etc., putting the appointments, meeting the boss's visitors when the boss is not there. The secretary did not lose their job. So, as we are looking at AI, we are the ones who are telling AI that AI is coming to replace us. It is not. So I want you to just remember that we can use AI as an enabler to make our work a little easier, to make us produce content much faster, and disseminate it much faster. As I close, sasa wacha nijipigie debe. The annual Media Excellence Awards is closing on the 28th of this month. Please go on to that platform. It is called AMEA. I know you don't like those very long words, Annual Media Excellence. It's called AMEA. AMEA. Just go to AMEA 2026. It will take you there. You will see the 24 categories that we have. You will be able to click to submit your entry. Uanze kutafuta fare, ujilete Mombasa. Si mumeambiwa asubuhi? Utafute fare tu ujilete Mombasa. Chai tutalipia na lunch. So just bring yourself to Mombasa. We will tell you where exactly in Mombasa, but if you start preparing early, you might just find yourself in that activity. I want to say a big thank you to my team, my panelists. It was really a difficult topic, very wide if you like, but you guys have brought it together. Hey, you guys are brilliant brains. AI inaweza tufanyia hivyo? No, we still need Shiundu, we still need Marita, we still need Simaloi, we still need the lawyer. So people, don't be threatened. We cannot put AI here to do the panel for us. Ama? Because it might be biased, depending on who taught it about that particular topic. So thank you very much. I know the photographers, you want that group photo which sits in front here? So can we have a photo of the panelists? Let's give a 5 factorial clap for them. Let's go. Thank you very much. We really appreciate. Wanasimama wapige picha. Who's coming to do the photo? Let's do that real quick.
Christine, you are part of the photo. Where are you going? Okay, I hope I'm not making any noise for the photo. The photo. I just want to say thank you so much, everyone, for your attention and the conversations that you have had. I just wanted to say that there is a joke that is told that radio is for ugly people with beautiful voices. But clearly there is consensus that Christine here is not ugly, neither is Maloi nor young Mudomi. So we are here to debunk that rumor, and we have fact-checked that statement, and we agree that radio is for beautiful and handsome people with beautiful voices. And now it's time for us to have the closing remarks from Kevin Mabonga, who is from our partner organization, Katiba Institute. But we forgot to clap for Christine. She clapped for her panel and then forgot to clap for herself. So I want to do it in the way they do it in Ukambani when they are tuning maembe. They just do this. Yes, we go, and then one. Aya, na nyinyi wenyewe. Another one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sawa sawa. Kevin.
Good afternoon, colleagues. So I'm not doing remarks really, but I've come to redo what Dina has done, just to appreciate all of us. I'd like to appreciate our partners, the teams that we've worked together to ensure that this event happens. Internews Kenya, thank you so much. UNESCO, thank you so much. And of course, Media Council of Kenya, nashukuru sana. And we hope that since the year has just begun, this is the first of the many events that we'll be hosting together. And just to pick up from where Christine left, by reminding you about, I almost said Ajea. AMEA, yeah. So we hope that some of these conversations, and as Eric said during the opening remarks, will be discussed in Mombasa, so that we continue with the conversation. But even before that, there are opportunities to discuss some of these things. I also want to appreciate academic institutions. So in many cases, we've left out academia in these discussions, and they bring a lot of value to these discussions through research. And I appreciate Aga Khan, my friend, Dr. Owila, and Daystar. I hope that we will connect more with the learning institution so that we get their perspectives and also benefit from research on these conversations. So just to highlight some of these things, 3 items that I'm picking up from this conversation. One is that we need to continue the conversations, and of course you've followed the remarks and the panel discussion, which was well moderated as usual by Christine, that we need to continue this discussion about information integrity. It's not just about us, but also do the audience know these discussions that we talk about. But again, most importantly for us at Katiba Institute, we are pursuing this aspect of tech accountability, that big tech must be held accountable, but also we look at our level of accountability. To what extent are we accountable? Do we know? So a marriage between access to information and the issue of data protection. So we also noted that there is need for something that has come out is capacity building among stakeholders. And on the panel, I've had 2 or 3 guys saying we need collaboration. When we talk of capacity building, we need funds. But when we collaborate, it becomes easier and cheaper for us. So that's another thing that we need to follow up. Then the last one I mentioned already about the Pan-Africa Media Conference that includes some of these topics. Those of you who are following I think the main summit that marks the World Press Freedom Day will be in Africa this year. And I think most of the people might make it there. And some of these topics highlighted are there, as well as RightsCon 2026. Topics to do with AI are featured quite a lot. So I'm sure we'll get an opportunity to be part of the conversation. So lastly, I'll thank you so much once again, and we hope to reconnect in other engagements and continue to collaborate at institutional and individual level. Thank you so much. So lastly, I would like to make an announcement about lunch. You'll pick your vouchers at the registration desk, then you proceed for lunch. We started with a prayer. I would request that we get a volunteer to pray for us as we close. Thank you. Any volunteer? Yes.
Yes, let's stand and have a word of prayer. Father, in the mighty name of Jesus, we come before you this afternoon. Thank you for giving us opportunity to sit here and deliberate on matters concerning our information system, which is radio, that many people rely on when it comes to information. As we celebrate this day, we also call upon your wisdom, your understanding, and more knowledge to those people who are in this space, so that when they are passing the information, that information becomes important to the consumers, the listeners. Bless our countries, give us peace. Bless the leadership of this country, give them more wisdom and understanding on how to govern this country. Bless all the media stations that have sacrificed a lot of resources to pass the important information to our people. We believe in you, we trust in you, and we always know you will never let us down. As we even tackle the issues of AI, give us more understanding on it, on how to go about it. In the mighty name of Jesus, I pray and I believe.
Thank you so much. We may proceed for an interactive lunch. Thank you.